is a beautiful Sunday afternoon as we welcome you to Minute Maid Park in Houston, where today the Houston Astros wrap up a 3-game series against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Angels winning Friday night, Astros bouncing back with a 3-1 win in yesterday's contest. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Astros Baseball. Todd Callis alongside Jeff Blum. And Blummer, when you look at things overall, the Astros hoping to get coming off a very good road trip this first series of this homestand.
Yeah, we've gotten a little accustomed to the sweep, especially what happened with that 11-game winning streak, but it's nice to see these guys go out and mentally focus on winning each series.
Reason the Astros have a chance to win this series is they got a very good start out of Mike Fiers yesterday, and the home starter ERA has been pretty solid.
No, these numbers have been pretty good, and since I've been here in 2013, it really looks like the Houston Astros, as far as the front office, have really made an effort to go out and get guys that can stay down in the zone with a good fastball, maybe a little bit of sink, but they've also taught these guys to throw very good sliders down in the zone. I think that's what's creating them the ability to pitch well here in Minute Maid Park. Has a tendency to produce home runs when you start to elevate the baseball, but what these guys do is they do a very good job down in the zone with the fastball and the sliders, and you get a good idea from Dallas Keuchel, who's absolutely perfected pitching in this ballpark here at Minute Maid.
Even with Keuchel on the DL for a couple of stints, the Astros were the best home ERA among starters and the best in the American League overall in starters, and today they turned it over to David Paulino.
Yeah, it's been a bit of an audition here with all the injuries in the rotation for the Houston Astros. Paulino gets to mix in there, gets his third start today. Last time out, he went 5 2/3, trying to push him a little bit further, but we've seen a good fastball, a good changeup, and he has gone away from the curveball to the slider. We'll talk about that a little bit later throughout his start.
So Paulino picking up a start here at Minute Maid Park, his first appearance at home, hoping to continue in that home starter ERA trend. When we come back, Julian Morales will talk about the Astros bats and how 1 through 9 they have been producing.
Park, where the Astros look to take the series from the Angels, looking for their 16th series win. David Paulino will be on the mound to do his part, and so will this Astros offense. Last night scoring just 3 runs, unusual for them, off 10 hits. 10 hits is nowhere near their season high. However, how they got there yesterday. 8 different players. That is our Toyota time to play. That's actually happened a lot more than you might think for this club. A very cohesive offense. They've been good all year, but the fact that they can get it done 1 through 9 is so impressive. In 31 games this year, they've had at least 7 players have a hit in a game. That leads the league. I'm saying at least 7 players. And like I said, last night they had 8. They're 25-6 in those 31 games. That's almost half of the games the Astros have played this season. They talk a lot about how hitting is contagious. Well, what the Astros have done this year has been historical so far, but they're very proud of what they can do, and they just keep it rolling, finding ways to get on base, drawing their walks. They're doing it all, showing off the power, and every night it seems like it's a different guy. However, when they all get going like that, it turns into a really fun game and some really fun nights for the fans who are in the stands. Stay tuned. We'll see how this one goes as they get ready to go for that series win. As I mentioned earlier, it's game 64, and the first pitch is coming up next.
Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. Couple of good friends, former teammates the last 2 years. George Springer, Luis Balbuena, now on opposite sides as we get you ready for baseball on this Sunday afternoon from Minute Maid Park in Houston. The Angels and the Astros wrapping up this weekend series. And in our path to the draft, that is tomorrow with the MLB draft. Today's show is going to be dedicated to the path to the draft. You can tweet us at Real Todd Callis, at Blummer27, at Julia Morales, or at Root Sports SW. We will have Lance Berkman on. He is obviously the former Astros star who is now a head coach at Second Baptist here in the area. Mike Elias will join us in the 5th inning. Mike is the assistant GM scouting and player development for the Astros. With the draft going on tomorrow, he's been very busy over the weekend. We'll talk about draft, college recruiting, how players can get improved, can get noticed. It's going to be fun to talk about some of these things that we don't normally get to discuss during the course of a broadcast.
Yeah, there's really not one path to that draft. There's plenty of stories. There's plenty of guys around us that we know that have great stories about getting in there. We're going to involve all of those guys, and we're even going to get some insight from Mike Elias, which I think will be very interesting to see how the Astros approach that draft coming up tomorrow.
Make sure you send your thoughts along on Twitter, and we will try and answer your questions or respond to your comments as we'll take a look at the Los Angeles Angels lineup presented by Mike Scioscia, as Cameron Maybin, who had that big game on Friday night, starts in the leadoff spot in center field, followed by Cole Calhoun. Albert Pujols will DH. Luis Valbuena is the cleanup hitter today. C.J. Cron at first base. Andrelton Simmons the shortstop. Martin Maldonado catches all 3 games here at Minute Maid Park, just like he did the first time these two teams were facing each other at Minute Maid Park. Eric Young Jr. is in left field, and Danny Espinosa is the Angels' second baseman.
There's a good look at David Paulino. You see some of his numbers on the right-hand side. He's yet to record a victory or a loss here. It's also his first time pitching at Minute Maid Park. 9 2/3 innings. He's got 12 punch-outs. We talked about the repertoire he has with the fastball, slider, curveball, the occasional changeup. He has pitched very well, earning that spot in that rotation for the Houston Astros since coming up. It's going to be interesting to see if he can top what he did last time as far as innings pitched, going 5 2/3 against his Kansas City Royals.
Really deserved a win in his last start. That was the game where the Astros led 7-1. When Paulino left the game, it was 7-3. And unfortunately, the Royals were able to score 4 in the 8th and 2 in the 9th against the Astros bullpen. But Paulino looked like he would be in line for his first major league win. Believe it or not, Blummer, in 5 career outings and 3 career starts, he's never pitched here at Minute Maid Park.
Yep, pretty interesting. The home crowd fans miss out on Carlos Correa, but they get them some David Paulino.
Great outing last night by Mike Fiers, and they hope to continue that today with David Paulino. Astros losing the opening game of this series 9-4, coming back with a 3-1 win yesterday, and now trying to take 2 out of 3 against the Angels. Cameron Maybin came off the DL hours before this series started. Had an oblique issue, and then he stole 4 bases, matching a franchise high, scored 4 runs, and was a huge catalyst in the game Friday night. We are underway on a Sunday afternoon with a fastball up high for a ball. It's 1-0. See that Maybin was highly sought after as a draft pick in 2005. The path to the draft, he was a 10th overall pick 12 years ago. Called strike, says Ramon De Jesus, the home plate umpire. Maybin thought that was a little bit out, or maybe a little bit up. De Jesus calling balls and strikes. Bill Miller at first, Paul Emmel, the crew chief, at second, and Quinn Walcott is the third base umpire. 2-2. '23-year-old right-hander David Paulino. That is close. Where was that pitch?
I don't know. We're going to get a chance to look at it on our MD Anderson strike zone. It's a pretty good slider from Paulino. You'd like to get that call.
Diving stop. Berkman gets up and fires. Scooped by Gurriel. Great play on both sides of the diamond.
Somebody got in the coffee early. That was a great play by Alex Bregman, laying out to his right. Excellent pick by Yuli Gurriel also. It was a great play right out of the chute in the day game. Not easy to do.
Wakes you up in a hurry.
You ain't lying.
And Maybin can fly, so Berkman not only had to make the backhand play, he had to get up, which he did quickly. Now a breaking ball for a called strike to Calhoun. That's the curveball. You heard Blummer talk about earlier, he has really gone away from a heavy dosage of curveballs last year to all of a sudden throwing a lot more sliders. But if you can drop that curveball in to lead off the at bat for a strike, that sets up a lot. Throws it again, and this time it's sent into center field and put away there for out number 2 by George Springer.
Pitch usage for David Paulino in 2016. We saw him come up and throw the fastball quite a bit, and that curveball that Todd is talking about. This season, a little bit heavier on that slider, maybe working over it on the offseason, and came into spring training with that good slider. But that changeup really appeared last time out when we saw him pitching in Minnesota. He had a great changeup. So still developing. He's a young man. He's got a great arm. but being able to develop those secondary pitches are going to make him that much more effective to go deeper in games.
Pujols sends one foul down the left field side. Albert Pujols hitting with 2 outs and nobody on. 8 days ago, hitting his 600th career home run. And yes, you are reading that right. Albert Pujols was not drafted until the 13th round in 1999. And he drives one deep to left center field. He has 55 career home runs against the Astros, make it 56 as he gives the Angels a 1-0 lead on a home run to left center. Nobody has hit more home runs in their career against Houston than Albert Pujols.
It's easy for me to sit up here and question pitch selection, but after watching the pitch before get fouled off, you can see the location on this fastball. It might have, if he would have hit Gatz's glove, it might have been in a better position to get maybe a pitch off the barrel, but this one right down the middle, and Albert Pujols, like you said, has done that 56 times against the Houston Astros.
601st career home run for Pujols. 1,862 RBIs. As Valbuena fouls one off the mask of Evan Gattis. .408 feet on that home run off the bat of Pujols. Valbuena around the bunt with the shift against him, and it's 0-2. Paulino has allowed 1 home run now in each of his 3 starts, making his 3rd start at the big league level after 3 starts for AAA Fresno. 1-2 the count to Valbuena. So 56 of Pujols' 601 home runs against the Astros. That's 9.3% of his career home runs. Foul at the plate, stays 1-2. Yesterday we talked about how Brian McCann continues to hit home runs against Ricky Nolasco. Seems like when one was in the National League, the other was there, and then they would go to the American League together. Well, the same things kind of happened with the Astros and Albert Pujols. 1-2 pitch, swing and a miss. Valbuena goes down, so Paulino retires 3 of the 4 batters he faces. Unfortunately, the one that he doesn't retire hits a home run. Off for Carlos Correa. Josh Reddick will play right field and bat second. Jose Altuve hits third. With Correa having the day off, Carlos Beltran moves up to the cleanup spot. Evan Gattis behind the plate. Marwin Gonzalez plays short. Yuli Gurriel's at first base. Alex Bregman at third. And Nori Aoki in left field.
Jesse, Jesse Chavez going for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. That 5-6 record, making his 13th start. He had a brief appearance out of the bullpen, but the Astro fans know that he has come out of the bullpen quite a bit for the Oakland A's, but now in that Angel uniform, getting a chance to start. You see in those 2 starts this season, he has a .234 batting average against. Doesn't get much run support. He has a 3.81 ERA here at Minute Maid Park.
Has fared well against the Astros in his career. Starts out Springer with a fastball away, 1-0. He has pitched for a number of teams in his career and has at least one win with 7 different organizations. 1-0 pitch is fouled out of play. It's 1-1. Springer in a nice run right now. 21 for 52, batting .403 during that stretch. George was number 11 overall in the 2011 first-year player draft. Currently tied for 6th in the American League with 16 home runs. Chavez has allowed a bunch of home runs this year, including a home run in 10 consecutive starts. George has 6 leadoff home runs this season. Big swing there, and it's 2-2.
Jesse Chavez comes at you with a lot of pitches, has 5 listed. Majority fastball, then it's that cut fastball. Almost an even split between the third pitches and being the changeup and the slider.
Working Springer away, and now it's 3-2.
Fastballs in, cutters away.
Six leadoff home runs this year, tied for 1st in the major leagues. 15 in his career for Springer. Called, 3rd strike. De Jesus calls out Springer, who is partly down towards first base. And George did not agree with the call.
Didn't look like a bad pitch on our MD Anderson strike zone, catching that bottom portion of the plate. A little bit below that knee. Again, we heard early on in spring training that they were going to eliminate the nape of the knee and call it at the top of the knee up. So again, strike zones are all a matter of interpretation.
Josh Reddick into left field for out number 2. Eric Young Jr. playing in left today with Cameron Maben back in the lineup. We had our second sellout crowd of the season last night, 41,296. We had over 40,000 on Friday. A lot of people in the Houston area watching Astros baseball this weekend against the Angels. Hopefully it continues with the Rangers coming into town tomorrow.
School's out, team is good, good opponents. Should be a good week.
And then after that, an off day Thursday, and the Boston Red Sox come in for their lone visit next weekend. Swing and a miss by Jose Altuve, 0-1. Down the left field side, it's 0-2. Last year, Jesse Chavez, 33-year-old righty, was much better facing right-handers than left-handers. It's flipped a little bit this year. Righties have better numbers overall in 2017. Altuve into center field. Maben on the move, still going back, and makes the play on the warning track for out number 3. Altuve gave it a ride, but he's retired, and Chavez has a 1-2-3 inning.
I didn't think about the draft when I was that little, but yeah, always want to be in major leagues. Always been a dream of mine. That's the cool part. You know, you can be an adult and still have the same dream as you did when you were 4. So that's what's awesome about it.
Cool time of the year for a lot of kids in high school and college because they are waiting anxiously to see how the draft plays out in the next 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. David Paulino begins the second inning against C.J. Cron. Cron sends one into right field where Josh Reddick has a play on it, puts it away for out number 1.
Some draft facts. It's a 2013 NCAA study. 488,815 high school players. 7%, just over 7% will go play in the collegiate ranks. 2.1 in Division I. Odds of being drafted out of high school, 200 to 1. We're putting up these numbers as a fact, not as a discouragement. There's obviously plenty of opportunities to get drafted, go play college baseball, but it's just the reality of it. There are so many teams out there, but there's so many ball players out there too.
Here's Andrelton Simmons. How was it for you coming out of high school and then your decision to eventually go to college?
I did not get drafted out of high school. I signed my letter of intent to go to the University of California relatively early. I was one of those early signing guys, and I was about 6'4", $160 coming out of high school. So I was physically, I could play the game. I knew I had enough talent to play the game, but I just don't think I was strong enough to last a professional season. And mentally, I don't think I was ready to go away and compete at that level at that age of 18. So I signed and went to school. Best move I ever made, going to school.
Yeah, that kind of turned your baseball career around, right?
Well, if I don't go to school, I don't switch hit. There's my numbers at the University of California in 93, 94. And the interesting thing, and on the bottom, obviously in 1994, I got drafted as a 7th round pick by the Expos, but I was just learning how to hit left-handed. So it gives you an idea of what development looks like, and it gives you an idea of what scouts saw as far as potential.
Ball in the air to left.
It's just a tough read when you're seeing a guy. And I think I really appreciate the fact that John Hughes, the scout who drafted me with the Expos, took into account and really did his homework and understood that I was learning how to switch hit. So that's something else that a lot of scouts have to do. Not only recognize the talent, but understand what is actually happening in that guy's career past to present.
Did you have any idea, you mentioned John Hughes, that the Expos might take you? Or?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It was interesting. I had 4 roommates my junior year in college, and starting in January, my phone was ringing off the hook, you know, and that's what gave me an idea I might have the opportunity to be drafted. And there were plenty of scouts at those college games. Obviously, playing in D1 baseball, there's scouts at a lot of games anyways. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of conversations, and those scouts will actually give you a call at your home residence. I didn't have a cell phone at the time, obviously. So a lot of my roommates were answering the phone and screening calls for me, because those are some interesting conversations.
Martin Maldonado, the batter, with 2 outs and nobody on. So of those calls, the Expos seem to be as persistent as any team.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because John Hughes used to be a coach at the University of California, so he had a little extra insight as far as talking to my head coach, Bob Milano, and he also obviously scouting in that area. They have a little more access to those guys up in the Bay Area when I was playing.
Paulino looking for a 1-2-3 inning. He's retired 5 of the first 6 batters he has faced. Ahead of the count, 1-2 on Martin Maldonado. A little cue shot back to the mound. Fielded by Paulino, the underhand flip, and he has himself a 1-2-3 second. Astros trail 1-0.
Comparison of two potential Hall of Famers, Albert Pujols on the right, Carlos Beltran on the left. Beltran playing 3 more seasons. You see the hits, relatively close. Obviously the home runs in the advantage of Albert Pujols with 601. They've scored a ton of runs. They've driven in a ton of RBIs. But a pretty good comparison between two legends playing in this ballgame right now between the Astros and Angels.
Amongst active players, they are baseball royalty. Adrian Beltre, will see him coming back into town. Missed him the first time through when the Rangers were here. Texas will be in town tomorrow as they wrap up their series in the nation's capital against the Nationals today. Carlos Beltran leading off for the Astros. This game is 1-0 because of Albert Pujols. He has the only hit of this game was a home run over the left center field wall. Beltran was a high pick, second rounder out of the 1995 draft. Made his major league debut in '98 as he sends a soft line drive towards Danny Espinosa, and he's out number 1. Today's show is the Path to the Draft. Kind of dedicate this Sunday afternoon towards getting you ready for the Major League Baseball first-year player draft, which begins at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Astros will have the 15th overall pick. They will also have 4 of the first 75 picks and 5 of the first 100 picks. As Evan Gattis takes one away for a ball, it's 1-0. Jesse Chavez making his 13th start of the year. Towards the hole, gloved by Valbuena, and he makes the play for out number 2.
Ex-Astro Luis Valbuena played a very good third base here for the Houston Astros.
Plummer, here's the schedule tomorrow. Rounds 1 and 2 beginning at 6 o'clock. So the Astros' first pick at number 15 should be somewhere in the vicinity of the 3rd inning or so tomorrow when the Astros are playing the Rangers. And then Minnesota has the number 1 overall pick, and they still haven't showed their hand. Tuesday will be rounds 3 through 10, and Wednesday will be rounds 11 through 40.
It's amazing how these drafts have turned into these major productions. It's so hard in baseball because there's so many more rounds and so many more players, I feel.
How did you find out?
That's the funny part.
I don't know the answer to this. We've never talked about it.
It was similar. It wasn't broadcast, obviously, but the first 2 or 3 rounds go by on the first day. I didn't get a phone call the first day, and the next day they started cranking out draft picks. I didn't hear anything early on in the day, so a buddy of mine, I said, hey, dude, let's go to the mall. Let's get out of here. You know, I'm not going to sit around all day waiting for this phone call. So I said, forget it. And we were gone for a good 4 or 5 hours, just cruising around, hanging out, and got back to the house. And, you know, I think my mom literally saw me roll in the driveway and open up the door and welcomed me into the house and said, hey, you got a phone call, you got a phone call, you got to call him back, you got to call him back. And, you know, sure enough, I think it was Bill Stoneman at the time with the Montreal Expos, and said, yeah, we were happy to announce that we had drafted you in the 7th round. There'll be a scout at your house next Monday or Tuesday or whatever it was, and we'll negotiate from there. And it didn't take much negotiation. I was ready to go play some pro ball.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, so that's before the cell phone. So
yeah, it was on the house phone. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I was like, had no idea. Not even a pager.
2 and 2 the count tomorrow with Gonzalez.
But the funniest thing was, is that once you agreed to a number, obviously it wasn't massive money in the 7th round, but it was enough to give me a good start. But the funniest thing is I mean, literally, it felt like the second I signed the contract, the next day there was a plane ticket ready to send me to Burlington, Vermont, and that's when it all started.
Chavez strikes out Marwin Gonzalez. He has now recorded the first 6 outs in succession. Astros trail 1-0.
different paths to the draft. Mike Fiers is definitely one of those guys who's had some success here with the Houston Astros, but it was not easy for him coming up. He was actually at an NAIA school in Kentucky, not getting any attention, guys, and pitching pretty well, too. However, nobody on that team was good enough to have scouts there. A crazy turn of events for Fiers. He was in a car wreck. He had 1 year of eligibility left, worked really hard to get back onto a field, played in a collegiate league where scouts were starting to watch, and then found his way on to Nova Southeastern, which is a school where J.D. Martinez was playing on that team and Miles Mikolas was on that team. Two players that were getting a lot of attention, had a lot of scouts in the stands, and Mike happened to be on that team and pitched really well. And here he is today. But without all of that happening, Mike Fiers may not ever make it to the show.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how that works. And you hear about that all the time, Julie. A good story on Fiers as Eric Young's down in the count 0-2 after a curveball at 69 and a fastball at 92. But you hear about that all the time where scouts show up to watch a certain guy, player A, and then player B ends up being the guy they end up drafting because out of nowhere somebody who was not on the radar surprises somebody.
No, I completely agree with that. And that's the thing is the scout may show up for one guy, but there's going to be plenty more guys on that roster that they're going to be able to take a peek at. That's one of the things that I always believed in. Obviously, you want to work hard, practice hard, get ready for those games, but you better play hard every time you're out there because guys are going to be being watched. And a couple of advice for young players as far as I'm concerned. Let the sport find you. If you're a good enough athlete, you're going to find a way to play well, but that sport's going to find you. Don't let the draft determine your path. If you think you're a first-round pick and you end up being a 15th-round pick, don't let that affect you. Go ahead and make your own path by playing hard and changing their minds. Lance.
JB.
What up, kid? You had to do it, didn't you?
I had to.
That's what he calls you?
That was
it's a long story.
Yeah, long story, but
it was a good
basically
one.
It's Jeff with a G is unusual, so everybody thinks it was J.
Yeah.
So we called him JB.
We just needed a root sports on your shirt. But
I know.
Good color scheme.
Coordinated.
Yeah,
I like
how about that?
Salty veteran move.
Sets off the gray.
Yeah.
You know.
Offsets.
Yeah, or offsets. Yeah.
Got that salt and pepper you got going on there.
Mostly salt.
Little bunt attempt here, and the flip by Gurriel goes nowhere because nobody covering. Yuli makes the play, and then living on the bunt attempt is Danny Espinosa. Lance Berkman joins us in the booth. Thank you for taking the time out on this show that we're doing. Is called Path to the Draft. You have been involved at every angle as a person drafted, and now as a high school coach, hoping the kids will eventually end up in college or possibly also being drafted.
We don't have any draftable players, I don't think. So. But yeah, no, you're right. That's when you're, amateur coaching is about helping guys get to that next level, and so yeah, it's an exciting time of the year for those guys.
Why did you choose to go to college as opposed to getting drafted out of high school?
Well, I didn't get drafted out of high school.
Me neither.
Yeah,
but I didn't know that about you.
Right. Yeah. I really had no choice.
Considering how your career went, I would have assumed you got drafted out of high school. You were very good collegiately and professionally.
Well, actually, I only had two choices collegiately. Rice offered me a scholarship, and so did Memphis. And I didn't know that Memphis had a baseball team, so that's why I went to Rice.
Things played out pretty well there as the pitch gets away, and Espinosa moves up to second base. As you guys had another successful season, got to the semifinals this year?
We did. We didn't get as far as I wanted to. I felt like we had another. We had a great team to win the thing, but when you're playing those one-game playoffs, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And we got locked up in a pretty good pitcher's duel, and it was 1-1 after 7 innings, which that's what we play in high school. And they scored a couple in the 8th and beat us 3-1, and then went on to win the state title in the next game. So just a good ball game. Came up on the short end of it. Baseball is not a sport that's designed for the old one-game.
No.
Playoff. So
completely agree on that.
Base hit into left field, so now the Angels have runners on first and third.
I've got a question. You had a great career. Why coach, and what do you emphasize when you're coaching these kids?
I think when you think back on your career as a former player, your coaches either have a positive impact or a negative impact on you. But the point is they're going to have some sort of an impact. I mean, when you're coaching, you're in a position of leadership. You're in a position of being able to influence these young men, which that's something that, primarily what I'm trying to do. And, of course, I'm at a Christian high school, so we try to build Christ into the young men and want to see a high moral standard and try to help them on the path to becoming men. And so that's what I hope our program is about primarily. And then we use the game of baseball to teach those lessons. And fundamentally, the game of baseball is about competition. So that's what I emphasize with our guys, and especially as you get into an increasingly analytical way of approaching the game. Sometimes the fact that, hey, we're trying to beat that other team, or if you're hitting, you're trying to beat the pitcher. If you're pitching, you're trying to beat the hitter. That gets lost in the shuffle. But at its essence, baseball is a game about competing, and I want to see guys compete and get after it. So that's kind of our coaching philosophy in a nutshell.
And we just showed before you came onto the broadcast the astronomical odds of not only kids getting drafted, but kids getting to college and kids out of high school playing Division I college. I'm sure you have a lot of kids with those aspirations, but at the same time, you're trying to tell them it doesn't really happen for many.
Yeah, and I always tell our guys, look, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't have to be baseball. It's whatever it is you're passionate about, because the reality is most of you guys won't even get a chance to play in college, much less have an opportunity to a professional career. But whatever it is you're doing, you can take the same things that make you successful in baseball, the work ethic, the attention to detail, the finding what your passion it is, and working with the team to try to accomplish a worthy goal.
Steal attempt by Maben. Gaddis' throw was on the money, but just a little bit late. So now the Angels have runners on second and third.
And all those things have value beyond the baseball field. So there's also baseball is a challenging sport. It's a sport that has a lot of failure involved. So learning how to deal with adversity and failure, that's something that will serve you well your entire life. So. We try to emphasize that, look, these are not just baseball lessons, they're applicable to all areas of life.
How do you feel about your baseball players? I know high school's a little bit different. I remember I got a little more sports specific when I was in high school. How do you feel about the multi-sport or the sport-specific type mentality?
I love the multi-sport as long as it doesn't interfere with baseball season.
Yep.
But I like my guys to play football. I think football breeds physical toughness in a way that baseball doesn't, and so I love for my guys to get after it on the football field. It works perfect. They can play football in the fall and then come and play baseball in the spring. And certainly to play at a high level, you get into college and professional ranks, you've got to specialize. But I think sometimes that happens too early, and guys miss out on that experience.
Cole Calhoun, a base hit to center. Maben with great speed will score from second. So the Angels take a 3-0 lead on a 2 RBI single by Cole Calhoun. Well, Lance, you talked about the fact that you were not drafted out of high school and then you end up going in the first round out of college out of Rice. What was that day like for you, draft day?
Oh, it was, we were in Omaha because we had just been beaten by the Auburn Tigers, and Tim Hudson actually pitched a great game against us and eliminated us. And I just remember sitting in my hotel room with my girlfriend at the time. She's now my wife, and her brother and my mom and dad, and we were waiting for a phone call because that was back in the day before the internet was readily available. Although I have an uncle that was somewhat technology minded at the time, and he got the draft on the internet, and he's actually the first person that called me. Phone rang, picked it up, and he said, "Well, are you happy to be staying at home?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, the Astros just drafted you in the first round." And my first thought was, "Oh, great, they have Bagwell at first base. I'll never get to the big leagues."
Albert Pujols, the batter, sends one into right center field. Josh Reddick is there for out number 2.
Did you play primarily in the outfield? I mean, at first base at Rice, or did you?
Yeah, school like.
Because I've heard stories about you making a great play down the line with a plastic bag.
That's right. I did do that. So my freshman year, I played exclusively in the outfield. My sophomore year, I was split time between left and first, and then my junior year, I played pretty much every game at first base. So I kind of migrated that way, and partly because of our personnel at Rice changed. My sophomore year, we had a first baseman that would sometimes pitch, and so when he'd pitch, I'd go in to play first, And then my junior year, we had 3 guys that were all faster than I was, so I ended up at first, and they were in the outfield.
I always wondered, from a player who was in Omaha during the draft, it's got to be a unique situation. You're playing the most important games of your collegiate career, and at the same time, the draft's in the middle of all that. That's kind of an unusual combination, isn't it?
It is, and I think it can be a bit distracting. In some guys, I think it affects their performance more than others, and there's some guys that maybe had an expectation of being drafted higher and are disappointed, and then that could impact the way they play going forward. It wasn't an ideal setup, but everybody was having to deal with it the same way, and I think it wasn't quite the big deal that it is now. I mean, it wasn't quite as publicized, and like I said, you're sitting there waiting on a phone call. So just a different era, and it's probably better though that they have the draft. I guess it's coming up Monday.
Yep. Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, and then they won't play the College World Series for another week. So I think it's probably better.
What do you feel was the best advice you were given early on in your career?
Well, I had Jim Tomei was playing with the Indians. My first game was interleague against the Tigers, and then my first base hit was the next series against the Indians. They came to town, and I hit a single off of Bartolo Colon, who's still pitching somehow.
Still going.
And of course, back then he was throwing 100, 101.
Yeah, it was a little bit different velocity.
And I get to first base, and I think they made a pitching change right after that because it was later in the game. And Jim came over there and he said, "Hey, I just, congratulations on your first hit. Congrats on making it to the big leagues. Let me give you a piece of advice that I was given when I was a young player." And he said, "If you want to drive in a lot of runs, swing the bat." And, that sounds like, oh, duh, of course that's what you got to do. But I played with guys that you get into those RBI situations. What he meant was you better be ready to hit the first pitch, because a lot of times you get up there in a big RBI spot and a guy throws a first pitch fastball middle away and you're not ready for it. And now you're 0-1, you end up putting yourself in a hole. So I tried to adopt a philosophy of when my back foot hits the back of that batter's box, I'm ready to swing.
And I think that's one of the conversations. And I know we've talked about hitting plenty, obviously playing on the same ball club for a while. But I remember you were always a guy that was initially, you were attack first, take second. And you could tell a lot of times in your approach, you would take, the hands would be ready, and then you'd say no. So that's probably where that came from.
Right, and you got to, it's hit, no. I mean, you have to be ready to hit every pitch. And you actually, it's counterintuitive, but you actually end up swinging at less bad pitches with that philosophy than if you get surprised by, oh gosh, there's a good pitch to hit, and you rush your swing. So when things are going good, it was always, hey, I'm ready to hit. And I played with a guy a couple of, later in my career that I felt like had a chance to be a pretty good RBI guy. But, I mean, every time he'd get runners in scoring position, he took the first pitch. And he was hitting 0-1 a lot. And I told him, I was like, dude, you've got to be ready to hit if you want to drive in a bunch of runs. So, I think that's what Jim was talking about, and I took that to heart and tried to hit that way my whole career. And it didn't matter. It didn't have to be a fastball. If a guy threw me a first pitch breaking ball and it was a good pitch to hit, I was letting it eat. Yeah.
Well, a pretty good guy to listen to, Jim Tomei. He hit a couple of bombs.
Right, yeah, just, pretty good resume there.
Yeah, not too bad.
Luis Valbuena draws a walk. Angels have runners on first and second with 2 outs, and C.J. Cron at the plate. We have Lance Berkman in the booth with us, as tomorrow is draft day here, our Path to Their Draft theme this afternoon. And you mentioned your team. They were outstanding in 2016, winning a title, and then this year getting to the semifinals. Is one of the more enjoyable or satisfying aspects of being a coach is seeing progression from a kid when you first see them join your program to when
and absolutely. And I think that's what, one of the things as a coach is you're there to shorten the learning curve, because and like Jeff, you're going to gain a lot of your knowledge from experience. And a coach can tell you something, but until you've actually done it, until you've experienced it for yourself, it's hard to adopt it, into your game. And so as a coach, what you can do is take your experience and take a kid from, it's going to take him 5 months to figure this out to maybe it takes him 2 months. And so we're just trying to shorten the learning curve with the knowledge of the game that we have and the experience that we have, because it's impossible for me to take the way I used to feel at the plate or whatever and put it in a kid's brain, but I can talk to him and I can help him figure out for himself, this is these are the things you got to do to be successful.
You have time to stay with us?
Absolutely.
All right, Lance will be with us bottom of the third as David Paulino allows a couple of runs in that inning. It's now 3-0 Los Angeles. first 2 career home runs. What a day that was for you.
Good. Can you hear? Oh yeah, that was a good day for sure. And that was, you know, I got off to kind of a slow start, and so that was a huge confidence boost for me to have a game like that.
Was that in San Diego?
In San Diego, yeah. Tony Gwynn actually got my first home run ball. He knew it was my first homer in the big leagues, and so he called out to the fan and had him throw it onto the field. So I actually have the ball thanks to Tony.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
That's a pretty cool move.
Yep.
So Gwynn gets the ball for you. Literally asks a fan to throw it back?
He asked a fan to throw it back because he knew it was my first homer. And
he presents it to you the next day?
I think he had it sent over. I talked to him. He's a heck of a fellow. I mean, or was, and you know, just class act all the way around, and that was certainly something that I'll never forget.
How much did you absorb from him or others in the early stages of your career? Obviously, your teammates who were through the ringer when you were just a rookie at that point.
Yeah, that's all part of your growth as a baseball player. Is you do learn from everybody that you're around, and some things you take and apply to your game, and some things don't really fit with what you do, and so but that's the process. You kind of gather information, you sort through it, you experiment with things, you see what works, and that's just part of trying to get better and trying to hone your craft. And so, yeah, I mean, all the guys that I played with, I always tried to pick their brain and pick the brain of the pitchers and figure out what are they thinking, and you know kind of how that deal works. And so it all goes into helping you be a better baseball player.
Yuli Gurriel to right field. Cole Calhoun on the move makes the catch on a line drive for out number 1 in the 3rd inning. Todd Callis alongside Jeff Blum, Lance Berkman here with us in our Path to the Draft show here on the Sunday afternoon. Blummer talked about collegiately how things turned around for him. Where was it, or when was it at Rice that you felt like things turned the corner? Because going from undrafted to a first-round pick doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, I think I owe Coach Graham a great debt of gratitude for that, because I got off to a little bit of a rough start as a freshman. And the good thing about Rice is we weren't super deep, so there was a pretty good opportunity for me to play there early. And I think I started my career with a strikeout left-handed and a strikeout right-handed, so one from each side of the plate, and didn't get a whole lot better from there. And then just a week or so in, Coach Graham pulled me aside and said, "Look, I know you can hit. I believe in you. I'm going to leave you in there. Don't worry about it. You know, you're gonna be in the lineup." And that kind of helped calm me down, and I got into a pretty good groove after that, and ended up having a really good freshman year. So I think that moment with Coach was big for me, and then just the more you play, the more you settle in.
And talk about when you realized you had an opportunity to play pro ball, and also talk about the mentality you had when you were playing, knowing that there were scouts in the stands grading your performance.
Yeah, it becomes nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
No, And I think I got a first hint of that. I had pretty good, after my freshman year, I went up and played in the Jayhawk League in Kansas, and they have a big tournament, summer ball tournament at the end of the year, the NBC World Series, and I ended up having a really good showing there. And that was the first, okay, well, maybe there's a chance that I could play beyond college. And then came back my sophomore year.
That was a wood bat league.
That was, but I really got hot when I switched back to aluminum from wood. I didn't have a great run with the wood bat. Yeah, but then the next year I had a really good year at Rice, and went to play in the Cape and ended up winning the batting title up there, even though I only hit 1 home run at Yarmouth Dennis, which is about 290 all the way around.
Yeah, true.
And so that was kind of the knock was, well, we feel like he can hit, but we're not sure how much power he's going to have with a wood bat, and you kind of fight through that. My whole junior year, every time the scouts would come out to practice, they wanted me to hit with wood, and I wouldn't do it. I was like, no, I'm going to hit
no.
Yeah, I was like, I'm hitting with aluminum, and you can guess as to whether or not this is going to translate.
Yep.
And so anyway, that's, it's a progression, but I just remember the first time I thought I might have a chance to play pro ball was after that NBC World Series.
And obviously your junior year, you show up and you're raking, team's doing well, and you're getting the scouts. How was that?
It was good. I mean, my junior year is the greatest year I ever had.
Oh, so you're locked
period.
in.
I mean, it was just like, if you didn't homer, it was a bad game, and so that's a pretty good feeling to have.
When did you start switch hitting?
When I was probably 5 or 6.
I'm a little bit jealous. That's why you had to jump on me.
Yeah, exactly. My dad knew that being a natural right-handed hitter and a left-handed thrower was an odd combination. So he figured if I could throw left-handed, I ought to be able to hit left-handed, and so he's the one that made me start doing that.
Good move. And now coaching at Second Baptist, the way we know about, it's one thing to go out there and handle the players. Talk a little bit about handling the parents who think their kid is going to be the next #1 pick, even though the reality may say otherwise.
Right. Yeah. And everybody has rose-colored glasses when it comes to their own children, and you just have to realize that going in. But by and large, I've had a really, really good experience with the parents at Second. They've embraced what we try to do in the program, and they haven't given me a lick of trouble, really. And so it's been.
Do you think that has a little bit to do with who you are?
Probably has some to do with that. Although they're certainly not above doing a little armchair quarterbacking during the games and stuff. Well, why is he bunting, or why are we doing this or that? you hear a little bit of that from time to time, but for the most part, they've really trusted me with their kids. They've kind of turned them over and say, hey, if you got to discipline them, make them run, whatever it is, feel free to do that. So this particular group of parents, and I've had them for 2 years now because most of my kids were juniors and then seniors this year, they've been tremendous. And so hopefully that continues going forward.
Any of your kids playing at the next level?
We got our best pitcher this year is going to Dallas Baptist on scholarship. We've got a couple more kids that are going to play like at a smaller D3 schools, and we have 2 or 3 kids in this junior class that will be seniors this year that have a chance to play Division I. So, we'll see how it pans out.
As a coach and preparing these kids for college, can you tell the difference? Put yourself in that scouting mode a little bit and tell me can you see when a kid has that baseball instinct?
Sure.
And then do you believe you can teach baseball instinct?
Yeah, I think again you can help out in that area. I do think that there's been a great disservice done to the nuances, learning how to play the game of baseball with all the private instruction. Most kids come in and they've been in the cage their whole life. They've been on the mound in some sort of controlled setting with video analysis and all of that. And they haven't really been taught what wins and loses baseball games. They're pretty good at sort of the obvious stuff, whether it be the hitting or the pitching mechanics. But in terms of all the little things like being a good base runner, or the value of taking an extra 90 feet, when to tag up, all those things that really determine success when you get to I tell my guys all the time, when the talent level is the same, we're going to beat a lot of teams because we're just a lot better than they are physically. But when the talent level is the same, it's all about execution and all about who knows it's kind of instinctively how to play the game. And that's something that's hard to teach. And a lot of the kids don't have that. And we try to put them in position in practice where you're creating game-like situations to try to help them learn some of that.
Well, and that's something I think you and I learned coming up through the ranks and playing at these levels. The talent level, all of a sudden, everybody maxes out. Obviously there's going to be Mike Trouts or Vladimir Guerreros who are just exceptionally better than everybody else and can overwhelm it. It's those guys who plateau a little bit as far as talent is concerned, but they have the mentality to do those little things and be better and learn how to win.
Well, and to me, if you're trying to build a team, you've got to have guys like that on the team. I think you were a guy like that. No offense as far as like comparing you to Vladimir Guerrero, but you had plenty of ability. But I feel like, you were a guy that knew the game, that knew what he had to do to be successful, and were a winning baseball player.
Springer deep to right field. Calhoun watching this ball go. George Springer, home run number 17. And the Astros back within 1. It's 3-2.
It's about time you put some runs on the board.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's been a while, huh?
George going opposite field. That's always a good sign.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's having a heck of a year.
Is there anything you especially like about George's game or his swing or how he plays defense or anything?
Well, I think I like all of it. I don't know.
It's pretty good.
I don't know if there's anything not to like. I feel like, I think just from watching him over the last couple of years develop, the thing that he's done to me is he's calmed down a little bit from a swing standpoint. And I think he's learned the value of consistent contact. And, for a guy like him that's as explosive as he is, all he's got to do is meet the ball, and the ball's going to jump just like it did. And if you look at that swing, a replay of that swing, you know, he's not taking a great big old high leg kick, and he's not swinging, you know, like he's trying to hit a ball 800 feet. He's just taking a good short swing and, you know, got a great result. So I think I just like what I've seen from him, from calming it down, for lack of a better, you know. And he's done a tremendous job. So.
We'll take a look at that swing again as Reddick with a base hit to right field, and we'll see what you were talking about here.
Yeah, see, it's just the leg kick is not quite as high. It's just really simple, real short, compact. You know, he's not moving forward. You see, he's hitting around his center axis right there, really nice. And you know, if he puts the good part of the bat on the ball, it's probably going to go out of the ballpark. So
I couldn't agree more. He's one of those guys who's supremely physically talented, can do that with just an average swing. I agree on that. He's got good command of the strike zone.
And he used to have what I call a two-part load, where he would have a leg kick, his foot would hit the ground, and then his hands would load. And he's done a much better job this year of keeping it all synced up. So when you have to, when you're loading your hands, it has to come at the same time as you're taking your leg kick. It's got to be a one-piece swing rather than a two-piece swing. And I know he's worked hard on trying to smooth that out a little bit, and as a result, I mean, heck, the man is on pace for a monster season, and he's fun to watch.
You switch hit. How hard was it? I get this question all the time. How hard was it to maintain both sides of the plate?
Impossible, so I just gave up right-handed.
You did? Well, you know what? That actually leads me into the next question, because I looked at my numbers the other day. 80% of my ABs were left-handed. You obviously played a lot more consistently on both sides of the plate, but as a switch hitter, you're going to get a majority of your swings left-handed. But do you teach, or would you recommend switch hitters mirroring their right-handed and left-handed swing? Because yours were
two totally different. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I tried to do it. I just couldn't, and I don't know why. But I think that gives me a unique perspective as a hitting instructor, as a coach, is because I know what it feels like to be terrible. And that, you know, from the right side, you know, I had a lot of.
Todd, this is what I have to deal with in the clubhouse, is listening to a guy like this who's perennially getting voted for MVP votes. I'm terrible.
Well, you know,
I mean, you could undersell a Ferrari.
Compared to left-handed, you know, my right-handed swing had a lot of mechanical flaws. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is,
what a mechanical flaw when you get the barrel to it every time. You're hitting it off the scoreboard, El Grande out there in BP.
But I think we can all agree that the right-handed side was not nearly as good as the left-handed side. So I forgot the question, but would I recommend switching?
Having the same swing.
Yeah,
on both
if you're
sides
gonna do it, try to have the same swing on both sides if you can. For me, it was weird because left-handed, my strength was hitting the ball the other way, and I had good power to center and to left center. And so the best strategy for me as a left-handed hitter was just to stay in the middle of the field. Right-handed, I had to pull the ball to be successful. And there are certain hitters that are that way. And so late in my career, I realized, look, just don't be late. You know, just try to pull the ball right-handed, and that worked better for me. And in practice, I would really work hard on staying in the middle of the field and trying to groove a good bat path. But when I got in the game, I had to think of, hey, I got to hit this ball out front, because I had a tendency to get, you know, my hips would go first, and my hands would get caught behind me, and I had a little bit of a longer swing right-handed.
Make you a good golfer, though.
Yeah, exactly. And so all that to say, what were we talking about? Altuve just drew a walk.
Yeah, he did.
First and second, 2 outs now.
Lance Berkman in the booth here.
The wheels are spinning, aren't they?
Now I'm like, wait a minute. What are we talking about? Here's Carlos Beltran. Speaking of switch hitters that do have
similar swing on both sides,
right? He is, to me, I mean, and, you know, no disrespect to anybody else I've ever played with, but Carlos Beltran is the most complete, talented ball player that I've ever played with. I mean, can hit left or right-handed, mirror the swing from both sides, cannon for an arm. At one point, he had the highest stolen base percentage in the history of Major League Baseball. I mean, there's nothing this guy cannot do on a baseball field, and on top of that, he's a great guy.
20 years, still doing his thing.
Yeah, I think he got to the big leagues when he was 10.
Here, Lance complaining about the right-hand swing is like Altuve complaining to Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah.
Saying, I'm struggling, and Miggy looked up his numbers, and you hit 340 at the time.
Well, you know, it's all relative, I guess, but
It is, but I think a part of being a good coach and understanding the game of baseball is appreciating the struggle, too.
Into center field, Maven is going to get there. Lance, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us here.
well, I may have done more harm to the broadcast than good, but
No,
I appreciate you having me on.
absolutely not. Thank you, Lance.
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
the way out, we're going to see something here that you may remember.
Oh, yeah.
What was going through your head?
Just, I mean, I'm not really, I was just thinking, just catch the ball. Like, you know, the hill came into play. I felt like I was hitting myself in the chin with my knees, but just, I was thinking, just catch it somehow.
Look at our Chevy Stroh poll. We have a question today in line with our path to the draft conversation we're having. What is the most important aspect of developing young players? Is it individual drive, good coaching, playing multiple sports, or keeping it fun? In order to vote in our Stroh poll, go to our Twitter page @RootSportsSW. Vote, and we'll tell you which one wins later in the broadcast. Guys.
All good choices. All good choices for young baseball players or softball players as we head to the fourth inning. It's 3-2 in favor of the Angels. Jesse Chavez danced around the plate a little bit last inning, ended up costing him. He threw more balls than strikes in the third, and the Astros came back with a 2-run home run by George Springer and then put 2 more on before Carlos Beltran lined out for the final out of the inning. Here, Angelton Simmons leads off the fourth with a double into the corner. Nori Aoki will dig it out, and Simmons will stay at second.
And I'll just go ahead and apologize right now for Lance and I getting a little clubhouse on things. I have issues with Bagwell was in here. We had a good time. Lance gets in here, and it's just kind of funny. But that conversation that you heard Lance and I having, those are conversations that are going on in that clubhouse between ball players. And that's just, you know, that's how you share knowledge, and that's how you go out there and experience the game as a team, is by picking each other's brains. And it was great for me being relatively new to switch hitting and having Lance in the clubhouse, because we actually had that mutual appreciation for how hard it was to swing with 2 swings.
Fouled out of play. 0-1 to Martin Maldonado. So how much did you guys talk about it?
A lot, and a lot of it was complaining. I give Lance a hard time because he put up such great numbers, and but we would sit there and just commiserate, and it's kind of funny. We would have moments where we were both swinging the bats well, or you'd see a switch hitter like Lance swinging the bat well left-handed, and you see that lefty coming up in the rotation a couple days down the road, and that day shows up, and you kind of give each other that look like, it's going to take me out of that groove I'm in left-handed. So switch hitting is tough, but it's an extra tool. It's an extra asset to have as far as getting drafted #1, be more appealing because of the versatility. But it's also another reason that managers don't have to take you out of the lineup. They can play you every day, much like a Marwin Gonzalez.
David Paulino facing Martin Maldonado with an 0-2 count. Maldonado sends one foul out of play. The next two guys in the Angels lineup are switch hitters, Eric Young Jr. and Danny Espinosa. Simmons the leadoff double. Angels with 5 hits. Paulino has thrown 55 pitches as he works in the 4th. Paulino faced these Angels last year coming out of the bullpen. There goes the runner, ground ball, and then Berkman, who is covering to check Simmons at third on the stolen base attempt, ends up making the play to his left. Well, Simmons moves to third with 1 out.
Off on the pitch. Good play by Berkman, charging in to get that short hop. It's tough too when you get that runner trying to distract you as he's going to cover the bag. It's a good angle of it. Multitasking right there by Alex Berkman. Hold that runner at third, make the good strong throw across.
Berkman made an outstanding play on Cameron Maben to start this game. And here's Eric Young Jr. with the Astros drawing the infield in.
So you're covering third base as a third baseman. You come charging in, but the runner cuts in front as you're trying to field the ground ball. And oh yeah, you got to make sure he stays there and doesn't advance on your throw. That's that baseball intellect we were talking about with Lance Berkman. There's certain things you can do in practice that you can't replicate that happen during the game, and that's just where some of the savvy comes in from a young ball player like Alex Berkman, who came up as a shortstop.
Eric Young's done a nice job since being called up from Salt Lake on the 29th of May. He's ahead of the count here 2-0. A couple of curveballs from Paulino missed. We're seeing him throw a lot more curveballs today than we did in his first 2 starts. Fastball up high for a ball. It's 3-0. We mentioned last year he relied on the curveball a lot. This year it's kind of flipped where the slider has been the more dominant breaking ball pitch, but today it seems like he's going to that curveball more often.
And I wonder if it has to do with the right-handed heavy lineup from Mike Scioscia. 2 left-handers and a switch hitter right here is one of them, or the switch hitter in Eric Young.
There is Scioscia next to Dino Ebel. Bench coach for the Angels. 3-1 the count. And now Paulino back in the count at 3-2 after falling behind 3-0. Paulino's walked 1 and struck out 3 thus far.
We didn't have a chance to ask Lance about his pitching coach, Andy Pettit.
We didn't. Yeah, that's right. Ground ball. Altuve. Here comes the runner. The throw. In time. Simmons out at home plate.
That's why A.J. Hinch is playing that infield in. Mike Scioscia and his group are going to have a look at it, but A.J. Hinch told us maybe about a month ago that he was going to play the infield in. He's going to cut off that runner at home plate if he can. There it worked out to his advantage. Credit Paulino for making a good pitch down to get that ground ball. Good job of keeping that foot in front of home plate by Evan Gattis, also maintaining his position. And the reason he was able to maintain that position was because Jose Altuve gave him a good feed. He didn't have to reach. Hit him in a good spot. Runner out at home plate. Great play. Fundamentally sound.
Gattis with that plant foot, the left foot, knew he was going to have a little collision there. And you could see Simmons knocking that foot away. But Evan, a great job keeping that foot in front of home plate and making the tag. Here's Danny Espinosa. So the Astros cut down a run. There goes Eric Young Jr. It's a pitch out. Gattis' throw is short hopped and unable to be handled cleanly by Gonzalez. That's a stolen base for Eric Young Jr. The Angels lead the league in steals.
Well, we know what the game plan is from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and Mike Scioscia is one of the managers when he first broke in who predicated on taking that extra 90 feet anytime you can. And we know that now in this series and moving forward throughout the course of the season that he's going to try and take advantage of the Houston Astros catching.
Angels tied with the Texas Rangers for the league lead with 53 steals. Rangers head into town tomorrow. One and one the count to Danny Espinosa. Paulino working through the lineup for the second time. Both starts at the big league level. He's thrown a total of 89 pitches, about to make pitch number 65.
I'm with Alex. It's good to have guys like Lance show up. Childhood hero, talking baseball. Lance has always been one of the more entertaining guys to watch on the field and listen to off the field.
Ball hammered foul. 2-2 the count.
And it doesn't surprise me that he's coaching, and when you hear him talking about guys being encouraging, he was actually one of the more encouraging guys in that clubhouse. He would offer insight to the players that were in there. He would also try and guide younger players along too.
Hunter wants to have him in every week. It was cool to have him there, not only because of our show today, the path to the draft, but also, you know, he can offer so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
Guy who's been through it as a player and now going through it as a coach, not only for kids that are potentially going to be drafted, but also playing at the collegiate level. We heard him tell us one of his players is going to Dallas Baptist. And he also broke down George Springer's swing. He did it all. Pretty good. Good stuff from Lance. 2-2 pitch. Paulino gets Espinosa swinging. That's the final out of the fourth. And Altuve cutting down a run in the inning. Keeps this game at a 3-2 Angels lead. Astros turn in the bottom half.
Three-two Angels out in front. The Coca-Cola Value Nights package is one of the best ballpark bargains. This offer is available for select Monday through Thursday regular season games and scores a ticket, hot dog, soda, and popcorn all for just $18. Visit Astros.com or call 1-877-9-ASTROS for more info.
Evan Gattis leads off. Bottom half of the fourth inning. Astros scoring 2 in the third on a George Springer home run, his 17th. As Gaddis sends one in the air to Cameron Maybin, who doesn't have to move very far. 1 out.
You know what's interesting about that home run? I'm not sure if we mentioned it yet.
2 streaks stay alive.
Yes. What are those streaks, Todd?
I'll do the one on the other side. Jesse Chavez has now allowed a home run in 11 straight starts. That's the longest active streak in the major leagues. And for the Houston Astros,
I believe they set a franchise record by hitting a home run in 19 straight games.
that is a franchise mark, snapping a tie with the 2000 Astros.
Lance Berkman a part of that.
Yep. Yeah, so in that team, you had Berkman, you had Hidalgo, you had Bagwell.
If you look at Richard Hidalgo's numbers, I believe, wasn't that the year he had 44 or something crazy like that?
Big season.
Monster numbers.
But what I was getting at kind of is that those three, you know, they had some guys that had put up big numbers. 1 through 9, they didn't have the consistent home run totals that this team has. You look at yesterday's starting lineup, the fewest home runs in that lineup was 6. Yuli Gurriel and Josh Reddick. And we're past the 1/3 point of the season, but not quite at the 1/2 point of the season. So if your lowest home run total in your lineup is on pace for about 15 home runs,
right,
then you're going to have a streak like this. And that 2000 team relied more on the big guns. A couple of guys that hit over 40 that year. But this team, obviously Springer pacing the way now with the 17th, but this team can go up and down the lineup. You look at the guy at the plate now, Marwin Gonzalez.
You look at him.
He's got a dozen home runs. I knew where you were going. He's got
I thought about letting it go. I apologize.
You could. It's kind of your thing. It's almost like you have to now. He's got a dozen home runs, 9 hitting left-handed, and Marwin has 147 at bats now. He's 1 every 12 at bats.
Yeah, that's a good stretch.
So yes, this is a team that may continue the streak for a while.
Absolutely. They've got guys that can do it. And we keep hearing about relentless, but what I have been most impressed with is the ability, even though Marwin punches out right there on the curveball from Jesse Chavez, is throughout so far this season, I don't feel like we've really seen any Astro give away an at bat. They continue to grind and make those pitchers have to make pitches to get them out.
2 outs, nobody on. Yuli Gurriel, the batter. Yuli started the last inning by hitting a line drive for an out into right field. And Chavez fell behind Gurriel 3-0 before throwing a strike and then getting that line out. He also walked Alex Bregman. He went to 3 balls on Nori Aoki, as well as a walk to Jose Altuve. So Chavez kind of lost the command there for that last inning. This inning he's picked up a fly ball on the first pitch and a strikeout. Now he's 1-1 on Gurriel. Astros with just 2 hits, the Angels with 5. Gurriel deep to left field. This ball is gone. Tie game at 3. Yuli Gurriel with home run number 7. That's one of those guys with only the 6 home runs that we were talking about.
Just piling on. Good job by Yuli. Again, I love the swing from Yuli Gurriel. They're trying to get in the kitchen, leaks out over the plate. Center cut. What does the veteran do? Just had a birthday too. How about that for a little bit of a present?
Yuli Gurriel on Friday, turning 33 years old. Celebrates this weekend with a home run. Didn't play on his birthday, similar to Jose Altuve.
It's a lot of pressure.
Here's Alex Bregman. Bregman walked and scored. Fouls one away, 0-1. If you remember, the Angel series was when Jose was celebrating his birthday in Anaheim. He sat out that day, and then the next day came back with a home run. Today,
maybe AJ's on to something.
Maybe AJ's got a little trend going. Today it was Gurriel's turn, and Gurriel played yesterday, but had a hit and a sac fly in yesterday's game. Chavez's numbers. He's starting to climb up on that home run allowed list, which Ricky Nolasco now has the most home runs allowed, his teammate. Angels as a staff have allowed a bunch of home runs. 2-2 to count. That is now 93 home runs allowed by the Angels staff. The team coming in, the Texas Rangers, next closest along with Seattle at 89. Down and away, and Berkman for the second consecutive time has a full count. Chavez this year has really struggled when he's gotten to that lineup for the third time. Today he's gone through the lineup the first 2 times, allowing 3 hits, including a couple of home runs. But the Astros about to turn it over and face him for the third time as Berkman walks. That is the second walk issued to Berkman, and the second walk, excuse me, the third walk in this game.
Away, 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 away. Another pitch away, and finally walk Alex Bregman. And how about the bat flip from the young man? How dare you try and pitch me away?
Here is Nori Aoki. Flied out to left his first time up. And a fastball for a strike. Nori thought that was a little bit high. Nori in search of career hit number 2,000 combined between the major leagues and Nippon Professional Baseball. He sits at 1,998 right now.
Yeah, he's got quite the media throng following him around, waiting for that big 2,000.
He's hit about 200 here over the last week or so, so that can be frustrating anytime, especially when you're counting down a hit list. In the dirt, it's 1-1. Nori came off that road trip where he went 5 for 21 so far in this weekend series. He's 0 for 4. .714 hits at the major league level, 1284 in Japan. Two and 1 to count. Nori can usually give you a long at bat. He can foul off a lot of pitches, rarely strikes through a pitch or swings through a pitch. Chavez has really had trouble this year with contact. He has the highest percentage of contact against him this year than any other season in his career. There's Nori fouling one back. It's 2-2.
Battling away, Maldonado's going to head out there, give Jesse Chavez a chance to relax, maybe regroup a little bit, have a conversation about how to attack Aoki in that 2-2 count. Right now, deuces are wild across the board. You see it. 2 outs, 2 strikes, 2 balls.
Glad we're indoors today.
Yeah, it's looking a little funky outside, isn't it?
Berkman on first base, 2 outs. Astros have tied the game at 3. And now it's 3-2. Another deep count for the Astros. Nori's second full count, just like Alex Bregman.
It's a big pitch right here. Turn this lineup over with a walk. George Springer homered his last AB, last inning.
Chavez needed just 19 pitches to get through the first 2 innings. He's about to make his 50th in the last 2. And there's a line drive into right center field with Berkman on the move. It's down for a hit. Berkman being waved home. Astros take their first lead 4-3.
Great hustle by Alex Bregman. Aoki 1 away from being the 70th member of the Green Jacket Club. Base hit number 1,999. Drives in a run for the Houston Astros. A go-ahead run. Worked it to a 3-2 count. We talked about the quality of ABs. He got a pitch down and in that he liked. He got the barrel out on it.
They wanted that pitch down and away. Instead, it leaked over, and Aoki did some damage with it. And with that count of 3-2, it made all the world of difference. With Berkman running, he was able to score from first. Head first slide just to make sure. George Springer with the slap of the hand, and Springer tries to hold up on the first pitch, and he does. It's 1-0.
You know what we call that slide into home plate by Alex Bregman, right? TV slide. Yeah.
Show slide?
Show slide. That's exactly what it was.
George hitting a home run his last time up. Home run number 17 on the year. Took one out to right field. And now it's 2-0. Well, this Astros comeback started last inning when Chavez was kind of dancing around the plate. He's fallen behind the power hitting George Springer. 2-0. Astros start their third time through the lineup. And the Angels have their first bullpen action of the day as Blake Parker begins to warm up. Third time through the lineup has been a trouble spot for Chavez this year. 2-0 pitches hit in the air towards right. Calhoun, a long run, still coming, foul territory, and he runs out of room.
The hang time on that fly ball. Seemed like it was up there forever. Calhoun had a long way to go. If it wasn't for the stands, he might have gotten there.
By the time that ball dropped, Nori Aoki was almost at home plate.
Good effort and good knowledge of the ballpark too. It's an outfielder that's tough in some of these visiting ballparks, but Calhoun's been through here quite a bit with the American League West Angels.
Misses away. Chavez thought he had a strike on the corner. Maldonado very upset as well. It's 3-1.
Borderline.
The flinch didn't help.
Yeah, it really doesn't. That's probably when you're going to garner most of the chatter from the opposing dugout.
But a pretty accurate call based on our strike zone. There you see third time through the lineup. 369 average and a 1,023 OPS.
Yikes.
And his strikeout percentage goes down to 12.7. All the numbers in the favor of the opposition when Chavez gets to the third time through the lineup. With that in mind, they have bullpen action working in this 4-3 game. Up high, ball 4. Springer draws a walk. Second walk of the inning. Fourth walk in the last 2 innings. And when your pitcher's struggling, you get frustrated with the strike zone. But to Ramon De Jesus' credit, he's made pretty accurate calls according to our MD Anderson strike zone.
How about George Springer? He's got an ultimate outcome day. Punch out, home run, and a walk. Kind of interesting to see how some of these unfold. Now that I know what an ultimate outcome is, as a player, I had no idea what any of that meant. But now, being on the broadcast side, you get to learn a whole new side of the ball game.
Mike Scioscia has seen enough today as his starting pitcher at a 3-0 lead. It's now 4-3 Astros with 2 outs in the 4th inning and 2 on. He may not absolutely be bringing the hook with him as Blake Parker has warmed up enough to be ready. A little stern talking to from manager to starting pitcher. Ramon de Jesus, who's not everybody's friend on the mound right now, joins the fray to try and break him up. And he will come out of the game, Will Chavez. So we'll tell you about the new pitcher when we come back. Presented by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. And by Jack in the Box. Come try the sweet or spicy barbecue bacon cheeseburger combo for only $4.99 for a limited time. Bottom half of the fourth inning, Astros leading 4-3. George Springer, as you can see, is on first base. Nori Aoki, with career hit combined number 1999, is on second base. And the Angels' new pitcher is Blake Parker.
Get a look at the big right-hander out of that bullpen for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. See that opponent batting average at 200. 15 games since May 6th. He's been pitching extremely well, yet to give up a run. Fastball around 94 miles an hour. Also has a curveball and a split-fingered fastball.
Astros able to do to Jesse Chavez what they've done to a lot of starters, and that is really build up a pitch count in a short amount of time. He had thrown only 19 pitches after 2 innings. But he leaves throwing 55 in the last 2 innings. 28 in the third, 27 in the fourth. And he leaves with runners on first and second, and 2 outs with Josh Reddick at the plate. Reddick takes a fastball for a called strike, 0-1. Streak up to 19 consecutive games for Reddick reaching base. And he's down in the count, no balls and 2 strikes. Reddick has singled and flied to left.
You need us right here?
Doesn't chase the split. Ball and 2 strikes. Blake Parker taking over for Jesse Chavez in the fourth. Astros coming back from down 3-0 to score the last 4 runs in this game. Reddick stays alive, bounces one over Jose Altuve's head. They retrieve the ball, and now we'll find a young fan. Homer mentioned fastball split curveball for Blake Parker. He's been throwing the splitter a lot more this year than he did in the past. Not as many curveballs. Try to get Reddick to chase an 0-2 split. On the ground, off the glove of Crone into right field. Aoki will score. To third goes Springer. Astros lead 5-3 on the RBI by Josh Reddick.
Astros have been hitting the ball hard this inning and putting together some good ABs. We know they like to hit the long ball. We've got a couple in this game so far, but after that home run from Yuli, you saw Alex Berkman earn himself a walk. Nori Aoki went to a 3-2 count, hit a bullet, and then the walk of George Springer. So these guys are back at it, much like we see them do on the road, where they're having much peskier at bats, letting the ball travel and taking advantage of the base runners and base hits. Let those home runs come. Until then, continue to have good ABs. Good inning.
I was just thinking the same thing. This feels like a road rally, the way they're hitting the ball and continuing to move the line.
Taking advantage of an extra 90 feet. Alex Bregman moving with 2 outs was able to score. Aoki moving into second, and now George Springer going first to third.
And it's Jose Altuve, who against Chavez hit a deep fly ball to center field. And he's also walked. He hits one on the ground. Base hit left field. 6-3 game. Altuve with an RBI single. The Astros scoring 4 in the fourth.
Remember what Lance said about being aggressive early in the count with guys on base? How about that right there? Look to hit first. Altuve looking to hit. Gets himself an off-speed pitch. Might have been that split finger down and just yanks it in that hole. And this is what a lot of Astro fans sitting in the seats want to see Jose Altuve doing here at Minute Maid Park. Just continue to pile up those base hits. Don't try and do too much.
Here's Carlos Beltran taking a called strike, 0-1. Well, the praise Lance Berkman had for Carlos Beltran.
Yeah, he got to play alongside him in that 2004 season.
Hey, Enos Cabell has a guy right alongside him in the top 10 all-time hit list. Congratulations to Jose Altuve. Beltran sends one into right field, but this one will hold up, and Cole Calhoun gets there for the final out. But the Astros send 9 to the plate in the bottom half of the fourth inning and score 4. Houston now leads 6-3.
Up, so I can't wait. Family's ready for it. I'm gonna have everybody at the house, so it's gonna be a good time.
What would it feel like if the Astros you got back?
That would be unbelievable. Then my dream would definitely come true, and it'll settle in, and tears will probably run down my face. But I can't wait. Wherever I go, it's gonna be amazing.
Cool to hear from some young players at the collegiate level who are hoping to hear their name called during the next 3 days of the first-year player draft. Today is our Path to the Draft broadcast. The draft begins tomorrow. If you have anything you'd like to discuss with us, Plummer is a lot more active, but you can also send it to myself. Or
there's been a lot of responses. It's been great.
It's been a lot going on today. Root Sports SW, the guy who is responsible for the Astros draft, should be joining us at some point this afternoon. Mike Elias, assistant GM of scouting and player development. We were glad to have Lance Berkman in the booth in the third inning as he discussed his draft, not only as a player, but also getting his kids ready for collegiate baseball or beyond as the head coach of Second Baptist. And here's David Paulino in the fifth inning with now a 6-3 lead. Paulino trailed at one point today, 3-0. Now working with a new life. Starting out Cameron Maben with a 2-1 count. Maben was retired on a great play by Alex Bregman to start this game. He also singled, stole a base, and scored. Maben fouls one towards the crowd and out of play.
Thought it was kind of cool to see the soundbite from a young man from Sam Houston. It's where Steve Sparks went, our color analyst on the radio side. I think he has the TV on watching the Bearcats trying to extend their season into the regionals.
There's Sparky.
Guess what color he's wearing? Bearcat orange.
2-2 pitch, line drive into center field for a base hit. So Maben reaches for the 6th time in this series. He's already scored 5 runs. He's scored every previous time he's been on base and has 5 stolen bases as well.
The Astros and Rangers will face off again at Minute Maid Park tomorrow through Wednesday. For only $99, you can purchase a ticket package for all 3 games with a chance to win signed memorabilia and batting practice passes for the June 14th game. Visit Astros.com/beat the Rangers to get your tickets. It's a pretty good deal.
Great deal. Rangers coming into today 3 games under 500. They won a game against the Nationals yesterday, scoring some runs late in that game to defeat Washington. They play just about 15-20 minutes, and then they'll head into town for a 3-game series. Texas currently 3 games under 500 in 4th place in the AL West, a game behind both the Angels and the Mariners. Astros riding a 13-game lead in the American League West. Well, Paulino knows you have to watch that guy at first. Maben with 18 stolen bases, 5 in this series. We will hear from Mike Elias in the 6th inning, we are being told. Assistant GM of scouting and player development. They've got a lot going on. I'm thrilled the fact that he's taking time out of this weekend to join us in the booth, because really since Friday it's around the clock. The work they do with all their scouts coming in from all parts of the country, getting ready to set up their draft board for tomorrow. I know Mike's not getting much sleep over these past few days and won't in the next 3 days, but kind enough to agree to join us on our broadcast today. It's 2-0 to Cole Calhoun. You saw Michael Feliz warming up. It has been a little bit of an up and down outing for David Paulino, so I don't think A.J. Hinch with his team picking up the lead here will have too long of a leash for Paulino in this inning. He's at 74 pitches. He's allowed 6 hits and a walk so far in this game. Paulino went 5 2/3 in his last outing. That's his longest major league start, making his 4th career big league start. And there's one off the end of the bat, 2-1. Up high, 3-1. Paulino never appeared in a game at Minute Maid Park before today. Trying to get through the 5th. Got a leadoff single by Cameron Maben, and now he's down 3-1 to Cole Calhoun. Albert Pujols waiting on deck, hit a home run against him in the first. Up high, ball 4. Well, Paulino allows the first 2 runners on after a 6-3 lead to start this inning, and that is all for David Paulino's day as A.J. Hinch calls for the bullpen. We will tell you about the new arm coming out of the Astros bullpen right after this. The top half of the 5th inning, David Paulino goes 4 innings plus 2 batters and turns it over to Michael Phillies.
Michael Phillies, last time he was out there, got roughed up a little bit on the 7th in Kansas City. Went an inning and a third, gave up 2 earned runs. He had 3 punch outs, but he threw 32 pitches. And we talked about that bullpen being taxed a little bit. But hopefully Phillies with a little time off, rest and relaxation to get that arm back in shape. The opponent batting average under 200, which is good. The whip is still pretty good. He's done a very good job of throwing that firm heater in the mid-90s for a strike, enabling him to set up that slider for the put-away pitch. And we're going back to that matchup between Beltran and Pujols as far as Hall of Famers. And the home run number was just a little bit off. It was a stolen base number. We changed that. Now it's 429 home runs for Carlos Beltran, because if we did put up the stolen base numbers, it would be heavily slanted in the direction of that guy on the left. He is a 5-tool player.
Pitch misses to Pujols for a ball. It's 1-0. You heard Lance Berkman throw out the stat earlier that at one point in his career he had the highest stolen base percentage in the history of the game.
Lance digging deep.
Like that. So Pujols represents the tying run at the plate as Michael Phillies misses on the first delivery. And now he's down to the count 2-0. Pujols hitting home run number 601 in his career, his first time up. Astros will not see the Angels again until late in the month of August, which is just fine for the Astros not having to see this guy. August 25th, 26th, 27th in Anaheim, the next time the Astros and the Angels will match up. At that point, Mike Trout should be back. 2-1 pitch is a called strike. It's 2-2. And then both teams will have a home series against each other in the month of September to wrap up the season set. So Phillies down to the count 2-0, now back to even. Called third strike. Puts one at 97 on the inside corner and freezes Pujols for the first out.
Nicely done. And when you're able to locate your velocity, this is what you can do with it. Locked him up. Wasn't exactly a phenomenal pitch in a 2-strike count, but I wonder if Albert Pujols was looking slider. Locked him up.
Surprising not to see that guy swing the bat with 2 strikes.
And runner in scoring position too.
1,862 career RBIs, and now it's Luis Valbuena at the plate. Valbuena 5 for 14 this season against the Astros. Against the rest of the league, he's only hitting 144. Strikeout and a walk today. And he swings through that pitch, 0-1. Phillies trying to keep the inherited runners on base. Maben on second, Calhoun on first. And he's ahead as Phillies 0-2. Base hit into right center field. That'll score Maben. To third goes Calhoun. Luis Valbuena continues to do damage against his former team. RBI single, making it a 6-4 game.
Fastball's finding a big part of the plate. Big league hitters are able to hit velocity in that part of the zone.
So the Astros with runners on first and third, looking to get a ground ball off the bat of C.J. Cron.
Good guy to double up.
Called strike, 0-1. A lot of offense today. Yesterday we saw a total of 4 runs in an Astros 3-1 victory. Today 10 runs, and we're playing in the top half of the 5th inning. 1-1 the count to Cron. Cron was 0 for 2 against Paulino. Fly out and a strikeout. Blocked by Gaddis. It's 2-1. Swing and a miss. It's 2-2. Phillies got to 2 strikes against Luis Valbuena. Missed with a pitch. Valbuena with an RBI single. Now he's at 2-2 with Cron. And there's a base hit into left field. That'll score a run. Valbuena heading to third. Cron into second. RBI double by C.J. Cron, his 9th RBI in his last 6 games, and it's now a 1-run game at 6-5.
Michael Phillies getting roughed up. That was a hanging slider, middle in. Good recognition by C.J. Cron, but really doesn't have to do that much with that slider. Cement mixing right down the middle, just dropping the head on it, yanking into that left field corner.
Phillies has missed his spot on a couple of 2-strike pitches in this inning. Now he'll face Andrelton Simmons. Simmons into left center field. Springer a long run. He's going to get there. Tagging at third is Valbuena. He will score. We are tied at 6 on the sacrifice fly by Andrelton Simmons.
Good job by Simmons. Runner on third, less than 2 outs. Looking to elevate and get something in the outfield. He did just that.
This Angels team has been either really hot or really cold lately. They were shut out in the game Wednesday in Detroit. They came back to score 11 on Thursday in a game Michael Fulmer started for the Tigers. Then he scored 9 here on Friday night. Yesterday limited to 1 run. And then today they have scored 6 in the 5th. Fouled back by Martin Maldonado, 0-1. One and 1 the count. Maldonado starting every game in this series. He has started 52 of the Angels' first 66 games behind the plate. And a heavy workload this year, and he's used to it. One and 2 the count.
It's a pretty good shot Evan Gattis just took to the face mask. Second one this game. Wearing that hockey style mask. Wow.
Maldonado staying ahead. They're staying alive in the count, 1 and 2. He's used to playing the entire series, not used to maybe being on pace for this many games. With the Brewers, never caught at this high a rate, but he played the entire series here at Minute Maid Park the first time through, now doing the same this series. Calling time with Phillies ahead of the count, 1 and 2. Oh, Gattis and Phillies want to make sure on this pitch they are on the same page. Astros scoring 2 in the 3rd, 4 in the 4th to take a 6-3 lead. And the Angels coming back with 3 of their own in the top half of the 5th inning. It's up to the bullpens from here on out. Phillies in there for the Astros. Blake Parker picked up the final out of the 4th for the Angels. 2-2 the count. Thankfully sprinkled into these early exits were 7-inning starts by Lance McCullers Jr. in the final game in Kansas City. Excuse me, it was the final game in Kansas City. And also Mike Byers yesterday with a 7-inning outing. That ball hit the umpire De Jesus and saved 90 feet for the Astros. 3-2.
De Jesus didn't look too happy about it either. It's got a little bit of a glove on it. And luckily, De Jesus knocked that ball down for Evan.
Because aside from those McCullers and Byers starts, Dion Diaz had to start as a reliever. He went 2 2/3 innings. Brad Peacock in the game Friday lasted 3 innings. And today, David Paulino lasts 4 innings plus 2 batters. 3-2 pitch, again fouled off. Maldonado with a lengthy at bat. So with no off days in the mix, the Astros have really tested their bullpen.
Might explain why there's nobody up right now to back up Michael Phillies in this inning.
Ball 4. They peel to first, and Maldonado checked his swing. So a couple of hits and a walk in this inning allowed by Phillies, and now he'll face Eric Young Jr.
Oh yeah, Brent Strom coming out to have a conversation. Good time for it. You can see the bullpen stir around a little bit, but really belabored walk by Brent Strom out there. I think this is going to emphasize a little more mechanics. It's going to emphasize some time to rest for Michael Phillies, regroup before he comes after and attacks EY Jr.
RBI Baseball 2017 returns with fast-paced MLB action packed with all your favorite teams, players, ballparks, and much more. Get RBI Baseball today for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and mobile devices. Learn more at rbigame.com. Gaddis stays on the mound as James Hoyt begins to loosen up for the Astros. Strom has had his say. Now Gaddis will head back to home plate. 22 pitches in, 2 outs recorded, 3 runners allowed so far this inning by Phillies. 2 of the runs this inning charged to David Paulino's line. He ends up giving up 5 runs. Paulino charged for the other run. Misses to Eric Young Jr. 1-0.
Not a pitching coach. It didn't pitch, obviously, but you can see it looks like Michael Phillies is kind of rushing things towards home plate. Looks like he's unable to repeat that delivery.
Now it's 1-2.
Looks a little bit better after Brent Strom came out. I wonder if that might have been the conversation, because you see sometimes that a pitcher will speed up his delivery. The arm will drag a little bit. They either overcompensate by throwing the ball down, or they miss arm side up. But just like hitters, you got to have faith in those mechanics.
Ball is driven to right field deep. Reddick going back, and this ball is gone. 3-run home run, Eric Young Jr. on a 1-2 pitch. All the damage coming this inning on 2-strike pitches, and Young makes it 9-6.
We talk a lot about being wild. You can be wild in the zone too. Too many good strikes from Michael Phillies this inning. 2 strikes, and that slider just coming right back into the barrel of Eric Young, and he knew it. A major strength of the Houston Astros up until about a week ago has been that bullpen. And we have seen it take a beating here in the last 6 or 7 games.
Young with his 2nd home run of the year, and he doubles up his RBI total, which is now at 6. This has turned into a 6-run Angels outburst in the top half of the 5th inning. 6-3 lead is now a 9-6 deficit. Andy Espinosa with a count of 1-0. And after getting Albert Pujols, first batter of Phillies faced, on a called 3rd strike, he allowed an 0-2 RBI base hit to Luis Valbuena, a 2-2 RBI double by C.J. Cron, and then after a sac fly, a 1-2 home run by Eric Young Jr. So Phillies getting to 2 strikes for the most part this year, has been able to put away hitters, but not today. Now he's ahead 1-2 on Espinosa. And Phillies strikes out Espinosa to end the inning. But the Angels send 9 men to the plate, happening after the Astros did the same.
The fifth, and we continue our conversation on the path to the draft and looking at some of the competition these younger kids are involved in. It gets tougher every year, and in order to stand out, it may not always be better to learn more pitches. If you happen to be a pitcher, we got a chance to catch up with the pitching coach for the Angels, Charles Nagy, who's spent 14 years in the big leagues, has coached a lot of different players. He shed some light on when to maybe start throwing the breaking ball.
It's a tough one. You know, I know the jury's still out on that. I learned how to throw a breaking ball when I was like 10 years old. And I threw the same breaking ball all through, you know, high school, college, and then in my pro career. So that's a tough one. I know, you know, it all depends on where you are and where you're raised, but leagues have rules against throwing breaking pitches, you know. I tell people nowadays, just fastball changeup. You know, learn fastball changeup, and then, you know, the breaking stuff will come later on.
It's great advice from a pitching coach there. He went on to talk about how hitters say that they have the toughest time with the changeup. So learn that pitch. It's a good one. It can take you a long way. And guys, just real quick, some of the guys that we have on this Astros team, I've talked to them, and a lot of good curveballs on this Astros team, and I wanted to know when they learned them. Lance McCullers didn't learn it until he was a junior in high school. He was a little bit later on that. Davinsky actually taught himself a changeup in high school, so that's where that circle of death pitch came for him. Will Harris, another good curveball in this organization. He said he was a big kid when he was little. He had a high arm slot, and one of the coaches at camp taught him a curveball at a very, very young age. Actually uses the same grip today. So it's different for everyone, like he said, but I'm anxious to get your thoughts on kids learning that particular pitch and what it can do to young kids' arms at that time in their life.
Thanks, Julia. And I wish there was a definitive answer. I mean, obviously you can err on the side of caution and just hold off on it. I appreciate the fact that Charles Nagy made himself available and gave so much good information to Julia as far as the interview for what we're trying to do today and relay out there. But that's probably the hardest thing for front offices and coaches alike, to try and manage that arm. How do you stay away from that Tommy John issue? And a lot of it starts with curveballs at a young age. But again, everybody's built differently. You don't know how it's going to affect the arm. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with mechanics and how you're taught to throw that breaking ball. But for me, I would just err on the side of caution and hold off as long as you can. Lance McCullers was actually really interesting to hear Julia say that he didn't learn it until his junior year in high school, because Lance McCullers is 23 now, pitching at the big league level with a filthy breaking ball. So a little more developed as far as an athlete to learn that breaking ball, and he's perfected it in a short amount of time. So you're going to get stories from both sides of the baseball, but I'm on the side of the cautious side to avoid arm injury.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The longer you can hold off on throwing a breaking ball earlier in your baseball career, the better off you are. Lance, of course, had his dad pitch at the big league level, but didn't start throwing that curveball until he only had 2 years left in high school. This guy right here, Kenyon Middleton, kind of fitting that he's out there after Charles Nagy's discussion, because Middleton has gotten to the big leagues with just a fastball and changeup. He has a slider. He might throw it once every 100 pitches. But he's basically a fastball changeup guy because he brings that fastball around 95, 96. He misses there with a fastball. And Gonzalez with a 1-out walk. But Middleton, a former basketball player, kind of late in developing. See his numbers on the year. Mike Scioscia using him in higher leverage situations as the season's gone on. Originally, he was a guy that he would use when they were trailing or in a blowout situation. But now Middleton's earned his trust with those numbers. He's a big kid who is able to throw high-octane fastballs.
Steve Sparks is a guy. I know we talked about him earlier, but he does the color side on the radio, and he is a big proponent of guys changing speeds on pitches, because he really feels that in order to ruin the rhythm, because the rhythm of a hitter has a lot to do with what pitches are being thrown. If a guy's in a good rhythm and has good balance, he's going to be ready to hit most pitches, but moving a little bit of speed off that fastball and even throwing a changeup really keeps that hitter off balance.
After I said he hardly throws a slider, he threw one to start this at bat, and it, according to the Angels dugout, should have been a strike. They were barking at Ramon De Jesus, but that had some good life. Surprised he doesn't throw that pitch more often, because that looked like a pretty good pitch. 2-0 the count. There's a fastball for a strike. Yuli Gurriel hitting a home run his last time up. He's also lined out to right, so he's hit the ball hard twice today. There's the slider again. It's 3-1.
Lineup depth is a big thing for the Astros. There you see why. A lot of guys getting on base. A couple of runs scored and driving himself in, did Yuli.
Yuli should get a pitch to hit here at 3-1. He does and fouls it back. Astros trying to rally from 3 runs down for the second time today. Alex Bregman on deck has walked and scored a couple of runs. Marwin Gonzalez reaching base for the 30th consecutive start with that walk. Gonzalez on the move. Gurriel towards right. Calhoun is there. Makes the play on the warning track for out number 2. So 2 outs, runner on first base, and that'll bring up Alex Bregman. Bregman's drawn a couple of full count walks and scored a couple of runs today. Fouls that pitch out of play. It's 0-1. Middleton made his major league debut against these Astros. Came in the game on May 5th. First game of that series in Angels Stadium between the Astros and the Angels. Now Middleton ahead. No balls and 2 strikes. He was in the Angels 2013 draft class. First member of that class to reach the big leagues. Berkman towards left field on the 0-2 pitch. Young all the way back to the wall. Makes the play right in front of the left field wall. Berkman gave it a ride, but he's the final out of the inning. After 5, it's 9-6 Angels. our Path to the Draft show here on our Root Sports telecast, and we are happy to be joined by Mike Elias here, Assistant GM of Scouting and Player Development. Mike, thank you for joining us on what is a very busy weekend.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, we're very busy over there in the draft room, getting the magnets lined up and getting ready for tomorrow.
A lot of magnets going up on the board. What's this like for you guys getting ready? Is this like the anticipation is finally here?
It's pretty hectic. We've been preparing for this day all year. Our scouts have been running around the country. Our analysts in the front office have been crunching the numbers, looking at video. And now we're all together. We've got all the information that we've been compiling in front of us for the first time in one place. We've got all the names up on the board. We're starting to get some information from other teams, what might happen ahead of us. So it's just a lot of anticipation right now, and we feel very prepared.
When was the last time you saw daylight?
It's nice to get a little sunlight, even if it's through the glass. We like to keep the blinds down in the draft room for extra security. So,
and the next most important question, is it called a war room?
We call it a war room.
Yeah,
yes.
the kid, I like it.
So were the rest of the guys jealous? You got to leave?
I gave them some tats before I headed over here to make sure everyone stayed productive, but they got enough caffeine. They'll be fine.
Yeah, so this is it. I mean, tomorrow's the big day. 6 o'clock, the draft starts. As you guys build your board, you've got 4 of the first 75 picks, 5 of the first 100. This is kind of an exciting draft for you.
It is. It's making for a lot of extra planning because we have so many picks on the very first night. We've got to get all of our information lined up, know the signability for every player that's involved, and have everything lined up before too long into the night.
So when you go into this draft, it's a little bit different. You guys obviously have done a very good job previous years because a lot of that talent's here. When you go into a draft, do you draft by position need, or do you draft by best athlete? How do you guys quantify what you want to go after?
In the baseball draft, it's a little different from the football draft for people that are more familiar with that, but you tend to ignore the composition of your major league roster just because there's a lot more uncertainty with the major league draft, and there's some time before the players reach the major leagues usually. So we stack things up just in terms of our perception of the players' talent. And we will draft based on that until you get a little bit into the later rounds. Maybe after like the 15th or 20th round, you might start looking at your minor league rosters.
James Hoyt in there for the Astros in the 6th inning, and as great as the research that can be done on the draft, here's a guy like James Hoyt. We saw a guy who was undrafted start the first game of the series for the Angels, and Matt Shoemaker. So there are some guys that occasionally slip through the cracks, but that's what you try and avoid with all the preparation.
It's true, and absolutely, and that's why we kind of keep the pressure on ourselves all the way through the draft. It's 40 rounds, goes 3 days, and we know how much talent is potentially available really, really late in the draft, even in this day and age, so we keep pushing all the way to the end.
And a lot of that is put on the scouting department. We know that the scouts are all over the country. They're out there actually putting their eyes on guys while you guys are back home crunching all the numbers. Talk a little bit about marrying the two of those, because the scouts are going to have one opinion. The numbers may say something a little bit different. How do you guys work that out?
Well, sometimes the two methods kind of align, and it makes you feel great.
And that's good to hear.
Other times there is some disagreement. We've got a number of ways of managing that, and it's something that we don't want to be the people that are doing all that math in our heads. So we have some systems in place to help us weave all the different threads of information that we get and try to come up with a ranking system. But it's difficult. There's more info every year that we use. Every year there's kind of a new challenge in the draft room in terms of incorporating some of the more advanced info that we get on the players.
And Mike, as good as the analytics get and the numbers are phenomenal across the board, it still seems like your scouts, boots on the ground, are so imperative to watch a kid, even away from what he's doing when he's not playing, warming up, everything involved with getting ready for a baseball game.
Yeah, there's a lot of relationship building involved too. They need to get to know the players, their families, their agents, and have a sense of where the player might need to be taken to be signed, what they feel like about the player's makeup and how that might bode for his future. So there's definitely a lot of human contact that's needed for the process, but then also they're able to see things on the field that you can't get on video or on a stat sheet, this is the place and time where we all bring it together.
Give us an idea of the difference between drafting a high school player as opposed to a college player, benefits, drawbacks.
Well, with the high school player, basically you have a little less information to go on because there's not as much of a reliable performance track record. When guys go play college baseball for 3 years, especially in a big conference, we have a pretty good idea how they're going to do in pro ball. You know, when you talk about the high school game, there's a lot of indicators, and you look at their physical tools and the way they manage at bats or the way they command the baseball if they're pitchers. But there's a little more room for error. You can be surprised both positively and negatively when it comes to a high school kid, a little more easier than a college kid. But just because there's more info on a college player doesn't mean you want to ignore the high school class, because that's where a lot of the superstars come from.
Tomorrow it starts. You guys have the number 15 overall pick. There'll be a lot of focus on those early picks, but does there build in pressure when you have a shorter amount of time in between picks as the rounds continue to go?
Yes, it moves very quickly, and it requires a lot more preparation, the fact that we have so many in the first night.
Well, we had a quick inning, a 1-2-3 inning, so you only had a short amount of time away from the group. Take some food and drinks back to them on your way back.
Bring some for the gang. I'll wipe
we
you out.
appreciate it. Best of luck,
Mike.
too.
Thanks.
Mike Elias joining us in the booth here in the top half of the 6th inning. Bottom half of the 6th inning. Astros will face their 4th different pitcher of this game, and 3rd out of the bullpen, the left-hander Jose Alvarez.
Seen him a couple times already in this series, a left-hander. He's got a high ERA but a low whip, so that tells you guys are getting on base. But once they do, Alvarez is doing a good job of keeping them off, or keeping them from scoring. Doing a good job against lefties. Obviously a specialist out of that bullpen for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Comes at you with a fastball, changeup, curveball, cutter, slider. Pretty strong mix.
A lot of people in Japan very interested in this inning and this particular at bat, because Nori Aoki, his last time up, doubled into right center field. It was an RBI double. And in the process, Nori reaching 1,999 career combined hits between the Nippon Professional Baseball League in Japan and the major leagues. Nori is one away from reaching their 2,000 hit club, which puts him in the Golden Players Club, the equivalent of the Hall of Fame here in the United States. And Nori facing a lefty. In his career, he is hitting .306 against left-handed pitching, .276 against right-handers. Swing and a miss. It's 1-1. You know that Nori is one away. He really wants to get there. He has been interviewed on a daily basis all year long, but that pressure has been intensified the last few days. And it's 2-1. Japan, it's called Mekukai. The translation is the Golden Players Club. We found out the other day you get a green jacket if you reach that plateau. 2-1 pitch fouled away. It's 2-2. Of Nori's career 715 hits in the big leagues, 2 have come against Jose Alvarez. He is 2 for 4 in his career with a walk against the Angels lefty. On the ground, base hit left field. There it is. Nori Aoki, 2,000 career combined hits.
A unique accomplishment for Nori Aoki, and the Houston area fans appreciating the accomplishment of getting to 2,000 hits between Japan and the United States. Congratulations, Nori Aoki.
So back-to-back hits for Aoki, reaching 1999 and 2000 in consecutive plate appearances, and now here's George Springer. Astros do a lot of damage against bullpens late in games. They're trailing by 3, but still have 12 outs to work with. Springer has hit a 2-run home run in this game. He's also walked and scored. Officially 1 for 2. I think Nori Aoki can finally exhale a little bit. He's had a lot of discussions about the career 2,000th hit.
And I tell you what, it's only fitting that he did it in a 2-strike count going the other way against a left-handed pitcher. Alvarez is a specialist, but Aoki's been a specialist 2,000 times with that stick in his hand. Altuve and his teammates recognize the accomplishment, showing his appreciation to the Houston fans.
Altuve was the one that came out of the dugout to get the baseball and make sure he secured it for Nori. 2-0 to count to Springer. There's a strike. It's 2-1. Knee on that swing. It's 2-2.
I guess the only question now is Carlos Beltran going to deliver his 2nd jacket of the year?
Yes. They should have Carlos deliver that jacket. He delivered Derek Jeter's jacket in New York. Exactly 9 weeks to the day since they put the green jacket on in the Masters on that Sunday. Sergio Garcia wore it 9 weeks ago, and today Nori will get to wear one. Crone, a long run, makes a diving effort, but that was a tough play for the Angels first baseman. Just a foul ball, and the count will stay 3-2 on Springer.
Crone would have caught that ball. That would have been the 2nd time we have seen him do this. He did it yesterday on a nice sliding catch going back down that right field line. Going just a little bit out of reach. Giving 2nd life to George Springer. George has seen a lot of pitches in this at bat.
ball's into center field. Maven coming on, slides and makes the catch. Springer hits it hard, but at the Angels center fielder.
Pretty good swing, but a good look at the route that Maven took. .8 miles an hour off the bat of George Springer.
He had a couple of 100+ mile an hour singles in last night's game, so he is still pretty locked in after 12-game hitting streak went by the boards a few games ago. Josh Reddick swings and misses, nothing in one. Reddick getting a chance to face a lefty. He's had some pretty good at-bats against left-hand pitching this year. Down in the count here, 0-2. Mentioned McCann's been hitting lefties. Brian hitting .303 against left-hand pitching. Reddick's actually hitting .290 this year against lefties. Stays alive. I think part of what Julie was talking about the other day with Reddick going from a guy who hit a lot of home runs but also struck out a lot to more of a contact hitter, that grinding mentality may be allowing him to hang in there against some of these lefties this year.
Absolutely. There's just certain guys you feel see the ball a little bit longer, and Josh Reddick is one of those guys. A lot of it has to do with that front shoulder you're talking about.
You try and go way away from him here. And he puts the ball in play into center field. It's pretty deep. Maven's still on the move, and he makes the catch on the final stride. Aoki has to retreat back to first. Reddick put a good charge into that one, and Maven ran it down.
I'm going to go ahead and hire a police escort to get Maven out of the city. He has been running all over this ballpark against the Houston Astros, stealing bases now, making a great play on George Springer. Reddick thought he got enough of it to get over the head of Maven, and so did Aoki, but Maven, with that closing speed, long arms, reaches out and makes a nice play.
Oh, Jose Alvarez, after facing 2 of 3 left-hand hitters, will leave the game. We'll go to another reliever for the Angels, their 4th of the day. We'll tell you about him when we come back.
Connect to Astros baseball all season with the MLB.com at Bat mobile app. Customize the app for the Astros and get awesome stuff all season long by subscribing to @Bat Premium. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Download MLB.com at Bat today, the #1 app for live Astros baseball. I want to thank you all for tweeting us, following along today, maybe learning something, we hope. Great subject and interview on the curveball. 12-year-old hard-throwing lefty. His coach is teaching him a change, cover, but no curve. Too young. I like it. Keep the tweets coming. Chad.
All right, Julia. New pitcher on for the Angels is the right-hander David Hernandez. We saw him pitch in the game Friday. First batter he will face is Jose Altuve. Altuve has reached base twice, also been retired on a deep fly ball to center field. Swings through the first pitch, 0-1.
It's a big pitch for David Hernandez. Dumped that slider, averaging around 88 miles an hour on it. Also has a curveball, throws hard in the mid-90s.
Game has had big swings in it. Astros trailed 3-0. Came back to take a 6-3 lead and now trail 9-6.
Numbers on David Hernandez have been very good the last 5 games. Scioscia not afraid to go to that bullpen.
Fourth reliever, fifth pitcher of the game as we play in the 6th inning. Towards the middle, but Simmons is there and he'll flip it to Espinosa for the final out. So Nori Aoki reaches a milestone with career combined hit number 2,000 between Japan and the major leagues. Unfortunately, he was the only base runner of the inning, and we're through 6 with the Angels leading 9-6.
Is going to be powered by Kubota. Ken Forsch for the Houston Astros, 18th round pick in 1968. Made his debut in 1970, pitched all the way through 1986 when he finished his career with the California Angels at the time, but had very good numbers for those Houston Astros. 3.18 ERA in his career in that Astro uniform.
Here's Luis Valbuena. James Hoyt had an outstanding top half of the 6th inning, striking out this side, getting Maben, Calhoun, and Pujols. And now Valbuena starts out with a swing and a miss, 0-1. David Paulino pitched 3 innings plus 2 batters, 4 innings plus 2 batters. And then Michael Feliz had some struggles in a 6-run 5th inning, allowing 4 runs himself plus the 2 inherited runs to score. That gave the Angels a 9-6 lead, but now James Hoyt on, trying to keep it right there and give this late strike offense a chance to come back. 1-1 pitch is a called strike, 1-2. Now, during this path to the draft telecast today, I found it interesting to hear not only from you and Lance Berkman earlier about how sometimes power develops later in your career. Because Lance said he was not drafted in high school, didn't have a lot of pop in high school. Your power didn't really develop until you got to professional baseball. So there's kids right now that may not be hitting home runs that shouldn't really fret about it because it can come later in your career.
No, absolutely. And I'm not sure how Lance was. I mean, he obviously developed into a very good power hitter. Number one, he was strong. Number two, he had a great swing from both sides of the plate. But for me personally, I was just late to the party. It took me forever to start gaining weight. I was about 25 before I could take the batting gloves out of my back pocket, so it looked like I had a rear end. So everybody's different, and the swing is different. And, for myself, I know Lance started switch hitting at 5 years old, so he developed a swing. It took me a while to understand how to drive the ball left-handed for me. I figured out how to redirect it and get some hits here and there. But really, it was later in, I spent 4.5 years in the minor leagues, and it was really that last year and a half before I figured out, wow, I actually do have some pop left-handed. But again, when you're working through the minor leagues, you got to play your game. You can't play the game you think the organization wants you to play. If you're good enough, you're gonna make it. You can't be somebody you're not. It's just maximize those skills that you have.
Lance was saying when he was in the Cape Cod League, the batting average was there, leading and hitting, but that he didn't have the power in that league, and that at that time caused some concern.
Well, I thought it was really interesting in the fact that he wouldn't pick up a wood bat, because that was one of the things when we were in college. If somebody had a wood bat lying around, which was rare, we grabbed it. We wanted to take swings with that wood bat. And what I think was interesting for me and a couple of guys, I played in the Cape Cod League also, which was a wood bat league, is when you're in college, you can get away with not hitting the ball on the barrel. You can get jammed, the bat's not going to break, you're still going to get enough pop out of that to get a knock out of it. So it kind of masks the fact that you're not getting the barrel to the baseball. And I think that might be part of the issue for scouts, is understanding, okay, this guy's a high average, but does he get the barrel to it, bat speed? And when you swing the wood bat, it really teaches you to focus on that 3 or 4 inch part of the barrel where you have to hit it, or else you're going to get exposed with broken bats and getting out.
Yeah, I found it very interesting, too, that Lance was very comfortable with the aluminum.
So I ain't doing it.
I'm not worried about it. I don't care. And it obviously worked out for him pretty well throughout his career. C.J. Cron takes a strike, 0-1. Leadoff walk issued to Luis Valbuena, who continues to do damage against his former team, on base for the 3rd time today. Cron doubled home a run his last time up. He's 1 for 3. There goes the runner on the ground towards Gonzalez. No play at second. Marwin makes the toss to first. Cron retired for the first out.
Some of the points I had up earlier with advice to young players: let the sport find you, play some sports, mix it up a little bit, find out where you develop your strengths as an athlete. You heard Lance Berkman talk about that. Don't let the draft determine your path. If you get drafted late, we've seen plenty of guys undrafted make it to the major leagues and put up great numbers. That third point, work hard, play harder, because you don't know who's watching. We talked about scouts show up at games. They may be watching somebody else, but if they see you doing things fundamentally right and playing hard, you're going to get noticed. But quality over quantity. I always implored that when I was practicing. I was going to take a good amount of ground balls, but I was going to take a phenomenal amount of a phenomenal style of ground ball, I guess. I was going to treat it, every ground ball I was taking in batting practice, like it was a double play with Vince Coleman on first and Ricky Henderson at home plate. I was going to try and turn it quick, but I was also going to try and make that fundamentally sound play. So just a couple of points that I feel that I learned over the course of my career, and hopefully help those young players along. But we put up some numbers that might be discouraging for guys as far as who makes it and how many guys can make it. But I don't want to discourage anybody from ever playing any sport that you truly love. And we heard it both from Jeff Bagwell when we had him in the booth. We heard it from Lance Berkman in the booth. We've heard it from Adam Everett a couple times. If you're passionate about it, go for it.
Can you imagine if Hoyt?
Yes, great example.
Didn't have that inner belief in himself as he bounces one that gets beyond Gaddis and the runner goes to third. James Hoyt, not drafted out of Centenary College, and was kind of out of the game for a little while. He ended up working on sailboats in San Diego, and somebody said, hey, the Yuma Scorpions of the Independent League are going to have a little tryout. Why don't you try out? And he did. The team ended up folding. He ended up pitching in Mexico. He was basically just surviving on the minimum amount of money you could make in those leagues, and here he is pitching the big leagues at age 30.
How about his battery mate, Evan Gaddis? Another guy. I mean, he's the Goodwill Hunting of baseball. He was a janitor and ends up catching in the big leagues, hitting 20 bombs a year.
chopper over the head of Bregman. Simmons heading to second, and he's going to get there with an RBI double. So a walk, a ground out, a wild pitch, and now a RBI double has given the Angels 10 runs in this game. They now lead at 10-6.
Just bad luck right here with Alex Bregman playing in just over the outstretched arm.
Yeah, Gaddis is another great example. So there are high round draft picks that certainly have advantages to making it to the major leagues, but there are so many stories about guys like Evan and James Hoyt who had a very difficult, circuitous road to get here.
And it also goes to your point of development. Some guys just develop a little bit later.
And even with guys that are stars now at the big league level, like a Jose Altuve, he had to fight for everything along the way because of his size.
And that's the interesting question for Mike Elias, and that's what I was talking about. Because if you lined up everybody on this field and said, okay, point out the league's leading hitter, they're not going to point to Jose Altuve. And they saw him in those workout camps and they said, no, you're too small, son. We appreciate the effort. Go away. He kept showing up and he proved everybody wrong. So there's a little bit of heart and character mixed into talent.
Hoyt ahead 1-2 on Martin Maldonado.
How would you like to be that scout or that coach that told Altuve to go away the first time?
Yeah,
does he still have a job?
And to Jose's credit, he never took no for an answer. He kept fighting through every level. Now, one of the stars of the league. 1-2 pitch, called third strike inside corner. Maldonado goes down looking, second out of the inning.
The Astros are celebrating Jeff Bagwell's election into the Hall of Fame all season long. A special 5-game ticket package includes tickets to the Hall of Fame weekend in August and access to exclusive Baggy-themed giveaways. Visit Astros.com/mini-plans for more info. It's a good scouting report on Jeffrey Bernard Bagwell. You can see the number system down towards the bottom part of the screen. You see a lot of 5s, 7s. It varies. We didn't have a chance to ask Mike Elias how that's transformed over the years. You're starting to see 80s when I was coming up, and then you saw 50s. But on the right-hand side, they gave one-word description of work habits, dedication, agility, attitude. 5-tool player. Can he hit for average, hit for power? Can he run? Does he have a good arm?
And they put present numbers and then where he projects in the future.
Projections are key, and they didn't have analytics back then.
And then the second page of that report.
Low-waisted, soft, fleshy body. That is a Hall of Fame description. Baggy, if you're watching, I hope you appreciate that. I also love the Steve Balboni reference as far as a big league comparison. But they projected him. He came up as a third baseman.
Another steal for the Angels in this series as Simmons picks up a bag. He gets the third with 2 outs.
Getting it kind of similar with Lance Berkman also talking about having to move positions with Baggy at first. But Baggy was originally a third baseman. They talked about him possibly being a future DH or a first baseman. There was even a quote in that scouting report that said possibility behind home plate. So you never know.
2-1 the count to Eric Young Jr. Now it's 3-1. Love Lance's reaction to being drafted. Yes, it's the Astros. Oh no. Bagwell's at first base.
Exactly. That should give you an idea where the mind at. And you know what? And I got drafted by the Expos, and I was like, oh, they're not very good. Oh, I'm going to move fast through the organization because they would move talent pretty quickly.
In the air to center, it falls right in between Gonzalez and Springer. A little broken bat flare hit for Eric Young, scores the 11th run of the game for the Angels. They now lead 11-6. Hoyt has given up a couple of tough luck runs in this inning, but runs nonetheless. And that'll be the end of his afternoon as A.J. Hinch comes to the mound. So we'll tell you about the Astros' new reliever when we come back. It's 11-6 Angels.
Astros Road Ahead is brought to you by DeMontron RV. Staying within the division when the Texas Rangers make an appearance here Monday through Wednesday. Astros looking forward to that Thursday day off before starting a 3-game set in the American League East with the Boston Red Sox coming to town. And then it's a road trip for the Houston Astros, heading out west, 4 games in Oakland against the Athletics before heading up to the Great Northwest. 3-game set with the Seattle Mariners. Long flight back, therefore the day off the next day is going to be kind of nice. And then the Athletics back in town with the New York Yankees following closely behind them.
New pitcher for the Astros is Dion Diaz. Diaz had to be an emergency starter for the Astros on Wednesday when Dallas Keuchel was unable to make the start. He went 2 2/3 innings in that appearance and now back in there for the first time since that start. Facing Danny Espinosa around a bunt and bunts through it, 0-1. Diaz is the 4th pitcher of the game for the Astros after David Paulino went 4 innings. Michael Feliz pitched an inning. And James Hoyt an inning and 2/3. Espinosa 1 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts. 8 unanswered runs have given the Angels an 11-6 lead. Called strike, it's 0-2. Astros need to rally to avoid losing a series to just the 3rd team in baseball this year. The only 2 teams that have defeated the Astros in a series are the Royals once and the Indians twice. And swing and a miss. Espinosa goes down for the 3rd time on strikes. Diaz comes in out of the bullpen and picks up a strikeout. 7th inning stretch time. Astros down 5.
The winner of our Chevy Stroh poll. Went with our theme today, the path to the draft, and we asked you, what's the most important aspect of developing young players? This is a close one. Keeping it fun edges everything out with 32% over individual drive. And we talked to the pitching coach for the Angels, Charles Nagy, earlier, who had 14 years in the big leagues himself before he became a coach, working with a bunch of guys with very different backgrounds. And for each of these guys, coming about it a different way and just becoming athletic enough to play any sport. Here's more with Nate.
No, I think they should play other sports. I think you need to just be an athlete. You know, I grew up back east with the seasons, so we roll with the seasons: football, basketball, baseball. You know, you try your hand at lacrosse, and you know, introduce. You know, I try to introduce everything to my kids. You know, and sometimes, usually, you pick the sport, and sometimes the sport picks you. It just gives your arm a break. You know, I mean, you only got so many throws in your arm, and just to constantly pitch you around, I mean, I don't think that's good for anybody. So doing other activities, whether it's shooting a basketball or even just throwing a football, it's just a different motion, and it can only help down the road.
As we've actually, listening to coaches talk about this, I hear that more and more. Try everything, do everything, and give your arm a break. Exactly what he said, whether it be throwing the football. I heard Lance Berkman say that earlier. Just be versatile and be well-rounded, really, as an athlete.
See some pitchers throw the football around when they stretch out their arms in between outings. And Blummer, that was one of your keys when we went through some of your topics of kids and what to think about when they're playing the sport of baseball, is to be versatile. And it's easy. You can play baseball 365 days a year if you want.
Well, obviously Texas is a place where you can play a lot of baseball. I grew up in California. Florida's another place that comes to mind where you can play year round. But I think what Nags was getting at is that, you do one thing over and over and over and over again. You're only developing your muscle for that one activity. And I think we're starting to see, you keep hearing the word athlete. You don't want to be just a baseball player. I think a lot of guys who do make it to the big leagues pride themselves on being athletes that play baseball. You can be an athlete and play basketball and baseball. I particularly loved basketball because it was just before the baseball season. But being a middle infielder, I used that, the agility of playing defense and dribbling and running around really helped me get in shape and develop foot speed to play the infield.
Guys, looking at our own pitchers here with the Houston Astros, a lot of those guys, obviously great baseball players, great pitchers, but they were good position players too, so they did a little bit of both. And then you start to look a little bit deeper into some of these guys. George Springer, a position player for the Houston Astros, took gymnastics. His mother coached it. And that was one way for him to just become an athlete. And then could be one of the reasons why he's so acrobatic out there. Could still do a backflip if needed, but a complete athlete that can do it all.
I think it's needed. There's a base hit by Evan Gattis with one out in the 7th inning. I would like to see that backflip.
A la Ozzie Smith. But yeah, no, I agree with you. And think about the agility. How about the balance? We hear about balance points all the time with pitchers when they're out of the stretch. They lift that leg and they're on one leg. They need the lower half power, balance in the box. So it works for a lot of guys. It's just great to hear. Remember when I was younger, Lynn Swann, receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a big uproar. Oh my gosh, he does ballet. And then you watch him play football and some of the miraculous catches he would make. Kind of helps you understand why he was able to pull that off.
Marwin Gonzalez, the batter, with one on and one out. Path to the draft is our topic today on this Sunday afternoon telecast. The draft tomorrow starts at 6 o'clock in the evening. We are very pleased to have Mike Elias with us in the middle of what is the craziest weekend of the year for him and his crew. Assistant GM of Scouting and Player Development, getting ready for the draft, putting the final touches with the magnets on the draft board for tomorrow. And then you also have players, Blummer, that not just play multiple sports, but within their own sport of choice, in this case baseball, they pitch and they hit. And a lot of guys have to make decisions once they're drafted because they are very talented at both.
Once you've hit a couple times, it's got to be tough to say, hey, you're not going to hit, you're going to be a pitcher. Likewise, it's got to be tough, hey, you're going to make the transition, because there's a lot of pride involved, but I think there's also got to be some humility involved to understand that they think you're still good enough to play the game. It's just going to be at a different position.
Will Harris is a guy that started his career as an infielder, moved to pitcher.
One of the best ones, Trevor Hoffman for me. Shortstop at the U of A, gets in the big leagues, and now he's arguably the second best, if not best, closer in the league. Marwin Gonzalez trying to have some fun with Martin Maldonado.
That pitch was right in front of home plate, and Gonzalez was pointing towards the dugout.
Well out in front, ricocheted off everybody. It looked like at home plate. Maldonado had no idea. And Marwin's like, I got your back. It's over here. Gamesmanship.
Puts a runner into scoring position. The 7th inning's been a pretty magical inning for the Astros this year. They are a plus 27 in the 7th inning. They gave up 2 in the top half. They have a runner in scoring position in the bottom half of the inning. But now Gonzalez goes down for the second out. 2 strikeouts in the inning for David Hernandez.
League leaders are going to be presented by Houston Methodist. Astros in the 7th inning on with their major league rank next to them, 136 runs. Extremely good. That on-base percentage helps out a ton. It's amazing they're second, somebody doing a better job. But with those runners on base combined with the slugging percentage, gives you 123 RBIs and all those runs scored.
Good at bats today for Yuli Gurriel, even though he's just 1 for 3. The one was a home run. He also lined out to right and hit a deep fly ball to right. Down 5, you'd like to get one back here at least, as you're starting to run down on outs. 7 outs to go in an 11-6 game. And Hernandez has been effective this inning, ahead 0-2. David Hernandez picked up the last out of the 6th inning and has 2 strikeouts this inning and ahead 0-2 on Yuli Gurriel. Acquired earlier this season from the Braves, and he has a 3 strikeout inning as he gets Gurriel swinging for the final out of the 7th. So we head to inning 8, 11-6 still. All about the guys here on this getting to the next level day.
Yeah, Sarah Hudek, that last name should sound familiar to Astro fans. Her dad, John, pitched here for the Houston Astros, but she played baseball all the way through high school, played a little bit in junior college before eventually getting a scholarship to Texas A&M to play softball. But it was actually the softball coach, I think, watching her play baseball said, hey, you've got some skills. Would you mind coming over here and trying it on the softball side? So always the opportunity. And again, don't be discouraged. Go out there and play. You never know.
She pitched at Bossier Parish Community College, Bossier City in Louisiana, before moving on to softball at Texas A&M. Sarah's accomplished a lot already in her career, as Cameron Maben will lead things off. 11-6 ball game. Maben has been on base twice and scored twice. He's been on base in this series 6 times and scored all 6. And he has 5 stolen bases in this series. It's now 3-0, and last thing Diaz wants to do is walk this guy in a 5-run game. It's already tough enough without having Maben on base. There's a strike. Maben taken over the American League lead in steals during this series. He has 18. Gerard Dyson next closest with 16. Guy coming into town tomorrow. Elvis Andrus has 15. Now it's 3-2. You were impressed with this Angels team when we talked in spring training. You thought that they might be improved, and here they are, kind of like treading water right around 500. But they can still play around 500 and then get Mike Trout back.
That's the crazy thing, is they're doing it without their best weapon in this offense. They've also gotten some surprise performances in that starting rotation because, again, they're being bit by the injury bug. It's a little more evenly spread out between pitching and some of the guys that are playing defense and offense. But last season they were just scarred by having so many guys go through their rotation, but now they're starting to come together a little bit. I thought this American League West was going to be pretty tough. Seattle Mariners starting to come around a little bit. They had a rough start to the season. But I imagine throughout the course of the season, you're going to see some pretty good matchups.
They're starting to get a little healthier. They just got Mitch Haniger back today. Mariners have dealt with a slew of injuries as Maven walks to start the 8th inning. And the Astros have had their share of injuries lately, unfortunately, especially to the starters. Currently, Charlie Morton, Joe Musgrove, and Dallas Keuchel are all in the DL, but we think that's going to end tomorrow, at least for one of them. Joe Musgrove scheduled to start the opening game against the Texas Rangers. And there you see the current AL West standing. Still a big lead for the Astros. The biggest it was at one point was 14 games. But here's the other thing. You saw those teams that are in second, one game below 500. In the American League, it's still all bunched up, other than the division leaders. You got Houston, the Astros out to doing their thing, close to 700 baseball, and you've got the Yankees playing above 600. But then right now, if you look at the second wild card team of the season would end today, it's the Orioles, and they're just one game over 500 with a loss today. And actually, it might be Tampa Bay now since they won today, and they're now 2 games over 500. What I'm trying to get at is if you hang around 500 right now, you are definitely in the picture. And the Blue Jays have bounced back to, they're only 2 games behind, below 500. But there's a lot of teams that'll be in that wild card picture as it stands right now, including these Angels.
Yeah, and I didn't have a chance to ask Mike Elias because that inning was cut so short, but I was curious, you know, if this draft for the Houston Astros, obviously right now they're focused on that draft because they've been very good at it, and like you said, they have several picks out of the first 100, which could really help them in the future. If that draft goes as well as they hope and they get what they need and what they wanted, would that change their attitude towards trades?
Cameron Maben with his 6th steal of this series, and he now advances to third on a throw into center field.
And what I mean by that is, would they be a little more willing to let some of their younger players go currently because they draft so well and have a little bit brighter future, maybe trade away a more near future for immediate impact type guys? But you know, that's way above what we're working with here.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into the draft, and that's certainly a consideration. Yeah, I'll be happy along with you when Cameron Maben heads out of town.
Yeah, and obviously the run differential right now doesn't bother him. He's going to run at will.
6 steals in the series, 4, and he only played in 2 games. 4 on Friday and 2 today. He's already scored 6 runs in this series. It's been a bit of a schizophrenic Angels offense lately. They've scored 29 runs in 3 of the last 5 games, and only 1 total run in the other 2. Got 11 against Detroit to wrap up that series. Actually, 31 runs in 3 games. 11 in Detroit, 11 today, and 9 on Friday. In the dirt, blocked by Gaddis. It's 2-2.
We always talk about timing when you play an opponent throughout the course of the season. We went into Minnesota and beat up on a Minnesota team that had a depleted bullpen. Now you're seeing a team like the Angels, who are swinging the bats well, beating up on an Astros team whose rotation is a little bit beat up, and the bullpen's beat down a little bit too. So a lot of it has to do with timing when you come in through and play these ball clubs.
Diaz appearing in his 3rd game with the Astros and allows a base hit into center field for another run. It's now 12-6. Cameron Maben scores yet again. 7 runs scored in 2 games played in this series. Cleveland's another team that just won today, so they're now 2 games over 500. So they're currently in that second wild card mix as well. Calhoun with an RBI, his 3rd of the game. He now has 30 on the year. 12-6 Angels. Astros led this game at one point 6-3. Called strike to Pujols. Albert 1 for 4 with his 601st career home run, his first time up. Sharply hit to short. Gonzalez to Altuve 1, and Altuve completes the double play. 2 outs in the inning. The Angels started this series playing the team with the best run differential in baseball in the Houston Astros. During the course of the series, the Astros have lost that title, taken over by the New York Yankees, who have just pounded the Baltimore Orioles the last couple of days. Pitch to Luis Valbuena's a called strike. Valbuena's been on base 3 times against his former team today. Yankees winning 14-3 today. So they're now plus 115 in run differentials. Angels facing the Astros this weekend, and now they'll face the Yankees when they go back home for 3 games beginning tomorrow night in Anaheim.
Did you happen to see what Aaron Judge did yesterday and today?
I did not see today.
Oh my goodness.
I know yesterday was 121.5.
Yeah, there were people scrambling to get out of the way of that laser beam.
What happened today?
He hit it over the entire bleacher section in left field onto the concourse at Yankee Stadium. It doesn't make any sense.
Wow. Aaron Judge is having a phenomenal season.
20 home runs, I think, now. Yeah, he is having a phenomenal season.
2-2 the count. Yeah, Judge just hit his. He only had 1 today. It's 20.
Yeah, that's all. You could have cut it in half and made 2 out of it.
He was in 3rd in RBIs before the day started.
It's another guy. You wonder, he's 6'7", 260, 50, whatever it is, ripped out of his mind. And you line him up and you say, oh, he's a football player. He's got to be somebody going out doing damage. But he enjoyed the game. The game found him, so to speak, and he's maximized his talent in the game.
Wasn't too long ago that George Springer led the American League in runs scored with Judge second, but now Judge has scored 51 runs. Springer has a couple of runs today, but he's at 47 right now. The Yankees did a lot of damage to the Orioles in that series. Yesterday was 16-3, today 14-3. Here at Minute Maid Park, it's 12-6 as we head to the bottom of the 8th. Hot Dog Wednesday. You can crush all the dollar dogs you can eat this Wednesday by visiting astros.com/dollardogs or calling 1-877-9-ASTROS. Good crowd again today. It was a big weekend here at Minute Maid Park. 32,425 today. First two games combined, they had over 82,000. So just a little shy of 115,000 fans for this weekend series.
Strong to quite strong.
Looked up the box score for the Yankees in between innings. Not only did Judge hit his 20th home run, he hit his 21st in that game.
And that one home run I was talking about, almost 500 feet, 495.
And he scored 4 runs today. So he had Springer +5 going into the day, even though George scored 2. Judge scoring 4. He's now +7, leading the American League in runs scored. Alex Bregman to lead off the bottom half of the 8th inning. Bregman's been on a couple of times with walks, also hit a deep fly ball. Caught against the fence and left. This is pretty well hit, but Maven's back there. Cameron doing it all in this series, puts it away for the first out.
Today's fan cam is presented by GulloAuto.com. Some Astro buddies. Hey, first ball game. Congratulations.
It was good for a while when it was 6-3.
Yeah, it's basically been a tale of 2 ball games. Astros winning the first half. Angels coming back in that second half.
That's the face of a lot of Astro fans since the 6-3 point of the game.
That's how that bullpen feels.
Well, Nori Aoki, after his 2000th combined hit between Japan and the major leagues, getting a chance to hit again here. He will be honored after the game in a press conference. We'll honor him with as the newest member of Mekyukai, the Golden Players Club is the translation. Japan's equivalent of the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Nori on a day where the Astros are down 6. Aoki bidding for his 3rd hit, and there it is. After getting 2,000, he picks up 2001. A 3-hit day for Nori Aoki. He's a 1-out base runner.
Had a tough time getting to that 2,000. He may just run past it. This one off the end of the bat. Nice one-handed drop shot.
Nori with a 3-hit day. Back to the top of the order in George Springer. Fastball called strike. So with that day by Judge, he now leads the league in home runs, runs scored, and RBIs.
Man, oh man.
Passing Sano and Cruz in RBIs. He'd already been leading in home runs and runs scored. And George will give him a run for his money, you would think, before this season's over. Springer was the leader a few days ago. In addition to 47 runs scored, Springer has driven in 39. Hitting his 17th home, checked at 40, hitting his 17th home run of the year earlier today. Foul tip caught by Maldonado, and Springer is down on strikes. Yusmeiro Petit in the 8th inning has allowed a single, and now he picks up his first strikeout. Petit is the 5th reliever used by Mike Scioscia today. Josh Reddick will hit. Want to know the count. .32-year-old right-hander Yusmeiro Petit. Pitched in the game yesterday. Allowed a double to Reddick. Josh ahead of the count 2-0. 12-6 game, 2 outs, bottom half of the 8th inning. Base hit again for Reddick. Aoki on the move. He'll get to third. Josh Reddick with his 3rd hit of the game. And the Astros with runners on 1st and 3rd and 2 outs.
Josh likes hitting here at home. Seeing the ball good off of Yusmeiro Petit also. Another well-struck baseball and a good job hooking it through that 4-hole.
Reddick now 3 for 4 in his career against Petit. Josh coming in batting .319 at home with a .927 OPS.
All-time hit leaders for the Houston Astros. See Berkman on there, number 5. Altuve creeping in the mix, tying Enos Cabell at 10. 1,124.
Billy Doran's head's on a swivel right now.
Yeah, that rear view mirror creeping up on him.
Here he is, Jose Altuve. 1 for 3 today with a walk and a single. Astros did all their damage in the 3rd and 4th innings. 2 runs in the 3rd, 4 runs in the 4th. Fly ball right field. Calhoun towards the crowd, has some room and makes the play right in front of the wall. So the Astros are out in the 8th. We head to the 9th, 12-6.
Astros went into Yankee Stadium, and you saw Roy Oswalt, Kirk Saarloos, Octavio Dotel, Saarloos, Pete Monroe. Hey, look at that guy. I didn't know it at the time, but that turned out to be a pretty big play because Billy Wagner came into that ball game and closed it out. You can see the excitement on his face when he realized 6-pitcher no-hitter out there in Yankee Stadium. There's a good look at those guys. Roy Oswalt to Pete Monroe for 2 2/3. Kirk Saarloos, Brad Lidge, Octavio Dotel, and finished off by Billy Wagner. I think the best part was that there were several guys playing in that game that had no idea we had a no-hitter going.
Is that right?
Yeah, there was a little Baggy saw Billy Wagner come off pumping his fist, and he's like, hey, man, you all right? Tone it down. And he's like, we just no-hit the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, and you kind of see Baggy go, really? It was great. Even Jeff Kent was beside himself. He was like, did that just happen?
That's great. Luke Gregerson on in the 9th inning of a 12-6 game. Luke just trying to get some work in. All 3 guys who haven't pitched since Wednesday pitching today. Diaz, Phillies, and Luke Gregerson.
1 error in that game. Soriano hit me a ground ball to my backhand side, just completely clanked it.
I mean, there was a walk somewhere in the mix, right?
I hope so.
I was going to say, you would have known about it if there wasn't a walk.
Exactly.
Yeah. 2-1 the count. So was it just Kent and Bagwell that didn't know, or there were multiple guys?
No, I think there were several guys, because when you watch the full replay, everybody's kind of high-fiving, and we're just kind of going through it, and all of a sudden everybody kind of like, wow, we just did something historic in this place, and you kind of see everybody all of a sudden kind of ramp up the excitement and high-five.
14 years ago today.
I was one of them. I was just like, wow, we won the game. Good job, guys.
But you didn't know.
Yeah, golf clap. And then I went, wait a minute. There's a bunch of zeros on the board out there.
That's pretty good. So you guys are so locked into the game. Plus, there's so many pitchers, you don't really think about it, I guess.
Well, that's the thing you took for granted.
Berkman stays with it and still gets Crone. Gurriel's made a couple of nice picks today, as Crone grounds out for the first out.
You were just more concerned about, who was healthy in that bullpen, who could come in, and you're going, oh my gosh, you've got another guy coming in who's getting loose. But there was also a little bit of fear factor when Roy Oswalt comes out of a game with a groin injury that early. You're going, oh man, much like Dallas Keuchel comes out of the rotation. So there was a lot of concern in that sense. But then we just unloaded every weapon we had out of that bullpen, and it worked out.
Yeah, pretty good stuff there at Yankee Stadium.
Yep.
It's a good place to have a game like that.
It was very cool.
12-6 game, called strike to Andrelton Simmons, 0-1. You don't usually see Luke in a game like this, but again, he has not pitched since Wednesday. And to be honest, a lot of the other guys in the bullpen have been used extensively, so just soaking up an inning here in a 6-run game. Simmons has doubled twice, including a couple of RBIs, one on a sac fly and one on a second double. In the air to the left, Aoki will make the play for out number 2.
Some of that bullpen usage we've been talking about in Kansas City on Wednesday. 4 pitchers, 2 pitchers, 3 pitchers, 2, 4. And with the rotation beat up, really not getting those guys that can push back that bullpen and give these guys some days off. The offense has been doing a good job of scoring runs, but it's trying to patch together somebody to finish off these games has been tough for A.J. Hinch.
Thank goodness for Fire, 7 1/3, and then McCullers with 7. The other starts have been reduced starts. One of them was an all bullpen day. And no off days until Thursday, so this bullpen doesn't get much rest as the Rangers come into town. Texas currently playing in Washington. They're tied at 1 in the 6th inning. Gregerson ahead of Martin Maldonado, 0-2. I want to thank Lance Berkman and Mike Elias for joining us in the booth during this Path to the Draft show on this Sunday. A lot of good tweets today, too. We appreciate all those who participated at home. Maldonado tries to hold up, but he goes around. So a 1-2-3 inning for Luke Gregerson, including a strikeout. We head to the bottom of the 9th. Is presented by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. And by the original light beer, Miller Lite. Hold true. Bottom half of the 9th inning from Minute Maid Park. Astros kicking off a 9-game homestand with 3 against the Angels and in danger of losing just their 4th series of the season to the 3rd different team after losing a couple to Cleveland and 1 to Kansas City. Astros are down 6 in the rubber game of this 3-game series. 9 unanswered runs scored by the Angels. And we head to the bottom half of the 9th inning, and another former Astro enters the game. Bud Norris.
The Bud Norris. Ex-Astros starter turned reliever, now closer for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Not a closing situation, but in there to get some work. See those 11 saves he's racked up. 4 games versus Houston, that 2.25 ERA good. Still has a good fastball in the low to mid 90s. A little bit of a cut fastball he's developed and a good slider.
Originally a 6th-round draft pick by the Astros in the 2006 draft. He was a non-roster invitee for the Angels this year. Now he's moved his way all the way to the back of the bullpen, saving 11 games so far for Mike Scioscia. He starts Carlos Beltran out with a strike, 0-1. Beltran looking for his first hit. He's 0 for 4. Beltran, Evan Gattis, and Marwin Gonzalez. Astros with another double-digit hit day. 10 hits today and 6 runs. Unfortunately, the Angels scored 12. Two and 1. Cutter's been a big pitch this year for Bud Norris. He'll throw some to lefties, but especially to right-hand hitters. And now it's 3 and 1. Norris appearing in this series for the first time. Last pitched on Tuesday, so Mike Scioscia trying to get him some work. Espinosa in the shift has to hurry and gets Beltran by a stride, out number 1 in the 9th. If the Angels win this game, they will move to 500 for the 15th time this year. Here's Evan Gattis. Angels trying to win a series here at Minute Maid Park. They have not had a lot of success here lately. Coming into this 3-game weekend series, the Angels had won just 9 out of the past 30 games in Houston. But winners 9-4 Friday night. Astros came back to win 3-1 yesterday, late afternoon, early evening. But the Angels bounce right back today with 9 unanswered runs and are up 12-6. Gattis chases that 2-0 pitch. It's 2-1. Tomorrow will be Yu Darvish against Joe Musgrove, opening up that 3-game series. Lance McCullers pitches Tuesday night. Brad Peacock on Wednesday. We know Peacock will be matched up against Andrew Kastner. Still waiting to hear from the Rangers as to who will pitch Tuesday. Musgrove coming back from the DL. Make his first start since the 26th of May. The 3-1 pitch is fouled out of play. 3-2. A little more than 2 weeks for Musgrove in between starts when he toes the rubber tomorrow. Astros hold a season series lead on the Rangers of 6-1. Breaking ball called, third strike. Gaddis goes down looking, and the Astros are down to their final out. Don't forget, coming up after the game, it'll be our Astros post-game show. Evan Eschenfelder and Mike Stanton will host. Nori Aoki reaches the Meikyukai Club, Golden Players Club in Japan. 2,000 combined hits. The Astros home run streak continues with a couple today. And we'll preview the Lone Star Series coming up between the Astros and the Rangers beginning tomorrow night. Home runs today by George Springer, a 2-run home run, and Yuli Gurriel, a solo home run. Marwin Gonzalez looking for his first hit. Reached on a walk, 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. In the air to center field, and the Angels are going to put a wrap on a good road trip. They go 4-2 on the trip, winning 2 out of 3 in Detroit and now 2 out of 3 in Houston. And for just the 4th time this year, the Astros lose a series as the Angels win 12-6 on this Sunday afternoon.
Player of the Game is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, and it's a historic evening for Nori Aoki. Joins the Golden Players Club, combining between Japan and here in the major leagues for 2,000 hits. Actually extended that with another hit after that. Sitting on 2,001 hits in his career between both leagues for Nori Aoki. Congratulations.
So I hope you enjoyed our Path to the Draft broadcast on this Sunday. Outcome wasn't exactly what we were hoping for as the Angels double up the Astros 12-6. Stay tuned, post-game show right around the corner.